The story begins in the serene wild, where rabbits graze undisturbed. High atop a steep mountain peak, a lone figure overlooks the landscape. He is a young boy, but a long, scaly tail reveals his true nature as a dragon. Shell leaps through the air, his long, scaly tail trailing behind him. As he navigates the rugged terrain of the mountain valley, Cell dashes forward with bursts of energy, his powerful scaly tail sweeping across the ground. As he leaps through the wild, he startles a nearby rabbit, unaware that a pair of keen eyes is silently tracking his movements from the brush. CL captures a rabbit, pinning it down with his powerful claws. The small creature begs for its life, but CL only opens his jaws wide, coldly declaring that since he caught it, he intends to eat it. With brutal efficiency, CL devours the marin, the sounds of snapping bone and slurping blood echoing through the wilderness. Just as he finishes his prey, he senses a powerful presence. He looks up to find a massive tiger standing nearby, silently observing him. CL and the massive tiger lock eyes in a tense standoff. The air is thick with hostility as CL lets out a sharp hiss, and the tiger responds with a deep, menacing growl. Breaking the tension, CL suddenly leaps forward and pounces on the tiger. With a powerful strike, he pins the massive predator to the ground, letting out a triumphant and aggressive roar. Cell tightens his grip, his claws digging deep as he lets out a fierce guttural roar. The tiger struggles helplessly beneath the Cell's weight, finally letting out a pained cry, admitting that the attack truly hurts. The tables have turned. CL, now the one overwhelmed and terrified, pleads desperately for the tiger to kill him quickly rather than eat him alive. But as the massive beast looms over him, the tiger does not strike instead. It looks at the young dragon with a pitying gaze, remarking that he is still just a kid. The tiger's paw firmly holds CL's scaly tail against the earth. As she leans in, her true form is revealed, a woman with a calm, piercing gaze. CL stares up at her, his fear replaced by utter confusion as he looks at the predator who chose to spare him. The tiger leans down, her gaze calm yet intense, and gives CL a sudden lick across his face. Overwhelmed and breathless, CL can only lie there, completely stunned by her unexpected action. The sounds of nature return as birds chirp from the branches and fish glide peacefully through the stream. Amidst this tranquility, CL remains on the ground, blinking slowly, still completely bewildered by the tiger's unexpected gesture. CL sits quietly, staring at the massive tiger lying before him. As the silence lingers, a sudden sting flashes through his leg. Looking down, he discovers a wound, the reality of the battle finally catching up to him. The tiger reaches out to grab CL's leg, causing him to cry out in pain. In a sudden reflex, CL's tail whips around and smacks the tiger right across the face. Leaving her stunned, frustrated, CL shouts at her, demanding to know why she's being so stupid when it's obvious he's wounded. The tiger looms over CL, letting out a low, menacing growl. Despite the predator's intimidating presence, CL looks back at her calmly. He admits that he is hungry, then adds with confidence that he knows she isn't planning to eat him at the moment. The tiger tells CL that he is still too small, a comment that CL finds amusing. He boldly tells the tiger that if that's the case, she should fatten him up and feed him plenty so he can grow big. When the tiger questions why, CL admits that he cannot fly for long and is unable to hunt with his current wound, warning her that he might starve to death if she doesn't help. Following CL's request to be fed, the tiger sets out to hunt. With a predatory gaze, she stalks a deer through the forest before launching a fierce attack. Far away, CL sits quietly in the desolate, rocky terrain, waiting for her return. CL gazes out at the horizon, thinking to himself that there is no reason left to wait. At that moment, the tiger returns, her heavy paw stepping firmly onto the ground beside him. A wolf suddenly surrounds CL, their eyes gleaming with greed as they discuss the legendary taste and magical properties of dragon meat. CL looks on with a bored expression, questioning if they actually believe such dumb rumors. As he tries to make his escape, the wolves cut him off, claiming they have his scent. However, as CL prepares to respond, the dark silhouette of the tiger looms silently behind him. Just as the wolves close in, the tiger pounces forward with CL perched calmly on her back. She lets out a fierce snarl, claiming CL as her own prey, and warning the wolves not to get in her way. CL looks on with a smug expression, telling the wolves they'll have to wait their turn. The tiger doesn't just warn the wolf as she strikes. With overwhelming power, she tears through the pack, crushing them under her paws and snapping their bones. The wolves, once confident hunters, are now nothing more than helpless prey, left broken and defeated in the dirt. The tiger's overwhelming strength has left the pack broken, with several wolves lying motionless on the cliffs. CL watches as the remaining predators scatter in fear. Despite one wolf's desperate growls, the tiger stands her ground, her gaze cold and dominant. With a sudden and brutal movement, the tiger lunges, clamping its jaws firmly around the wolf's neck. The wolf's defiance is instantly crushed under the tiger's overwhelming strength, ending the struggle with a final, decisive bite. With a final brutal clench of her jaws, The tiger crushes the wolf's neck, silencing it forever. CL stands by, watching the violent display with a calm, unfazed expression. The tiger then steps away from the carcass, the threat finally eliminated. CL sighs, looking at the tiger with a cold, indifferent gaze. He bluntly reminds her that despite her strength, she will eventually face death. Nearby, the surviving wolves stand in shock, staring at the lifeless body of their comrade. In his CL form, CL seizes one of the wolves, questioning if it is their leader. Despite the wolf's desperate pleas to be released, CL bluntly agrees and tosses the creature away like trash. The remaining wolves can only watch in shock as their leader crashes violently into the rocks, while CL looks on with complete indifference. The tiger coughs, exhausted from the exertion, and shifts back into her human form. As she sits on the ground, CL looks at her and remarks with a hint of mockery that she is all beat up. Irritated by his comment, the tiger gives him a cold, annoyed glare. CL looks down at the weakened tiger, bluntly stating that he could flee whenever he wants, since she is in no condition to stop him. He admits he isn't foolish enough to simply behave if it means ending up as her meal. Unfazed, the tiger retorts, challenging him to try and reach her level of strength if he is so dissatisfied. As they speak, CL reaches out, his hand brushing against her chin. CL leans in close, his hand gently lifting the tiger's chin. With a provocative gaze, he tells her to convince him that getting eaten would be okay if she were the one doing it. The tiger snaps back at CL's provocation, shouting her intent to devour him right then and there. CL only smiles, teasingly commenting on how full of energy she suddenly is. CL pulls back, leaving the tiger startled and flustered. With a smug expression, he declares that they are now even. As the tiger glares at him in annoyance, CL looks on with a deadpan face, coldly remarking that she is not charming at all. CL floats in the air, looking down at the tiger with a smug expression. He continues his teasing, remarking that it's only natural since nobody would find their food charming. The tiger stares back, momentarily stunned by his logic, before finally calling out to him. CL suddenly announces that he is hungry, much to the tiger's exasperation. When she questions him, he simply asks what else there is to do besides eat. He then presses her about her recent hunting trip, smugly guessing that she failed to catch anything and asking where her prey is. CL finds himself alone by a quiet stream in the heart of the forest. However, he is not as alone as he thinks. From behind the thick trunks of the trees, a bear watches him intently, slowly stepping forward to close the distance. As a new chapter begins, the tiger stands imposing and watchful over CL by the forest stream, with towering cliffs looming in the background. The tiger looms over CL, their eyes meeting in a silent, tense stare. Suddenly she shifts her form, appearing as a tiger standing before the young boy. Meanwhile, the bear that had been stalking CL watches them from the cover of the trees, but upon realizing the tiger's presence, it clicks its tongue in annoyance and retreats into the forest. CL recognizes the woman before him, realizing it is the tiger. Noticing a strange, crude shape on the ground, he asks what it is, before turning back to her with a smug expression to ask if she actually caught any prey. CL continues to poke fun at the tiger, wondering if her prey slipped away again. The tiger shoots back, calling him even worse at hunting than she thought. With a casual shrug, CL jokes that he must be dumb for getting caught by her. As he plays by the stream, the tiger looks at him and remarks that his pale white body makes him stand out, making him an easy target. CL dives into the water with a series of loud splashes, attempting to hunt for himself. However, the tiger simply watches him from the shore, noting that the prey has already escaped. While CL struggled in the water, the tiger effortlessly catches a fish in her jaws. CL looks on with a smile, praising her success. The fresh catch now lies on the riverbank, ready for them. From the branches of the trees, a group of crows spots CL and the tiger, whispering among themselves about how rare it is to see a CL in these times. As they watch the unlikely pair, another hidden observer holds a stone, feeling a strange sense of pity for the young CL. CL decides it's time to move on, complaining that the squawking of the birds is grating on his ears. As they walk away, the tiger asks him if his brethren are all gone, but CL bluntly shuts her down, insisting that he doesn't know and simply doesn't care. Night falls over the mountains, and the two find refuge within the hollow of a great tree. CL curls up and falls fast asleep, his scaly tail wrapped around him for warmth. Beside him, the tiger remains awake, gazing down at the young dragon with a soft, unreadable expression. The quiet of the night is interrupted when an owl descends, questioning the tiger's strange mercy toward the dragon. When the tiger claims that CL is still too small to eat, the owl mockingly suggests she is merely fattening him up for the slaughter, warning her to quit while she's ahead. The tiger muses that dragons live for 1,000 years, while tigers barely reach 20. Yuna seizes the moment to mock her patience, warning that she will likely die of old age while waiting for CL to grow, and bluntly urges her to just go ahead and eat him. The tiger looks down at the sleeping CL, her expression solemn and contemplative, as she watches the young dragon. She reflects on the cruel reality of their differing lifespans and the bond she has formed with her prey. The tiger leans over the sleeping CL, her gaze fixed on him. With a mischievous chuckle, she brings her face close to his, the tension between predator and prey lingering in the quiet of the cave. CL wakes up with a smile, noting that the tiger's proximity tickles. He asks her if he is truly destined to live for 1,000 years, prompting the tiger to dryly remark that she wouldn't dare sleep defenselessly next to a predator like him. CL asks the tiger if she would honestly believe him, if he spoke a certain way. The tiger scoffs, teasing him for being too gullible. She remarks that as predators, they've never had to think deeply to survive, jokingly admitting that this is why tigers are considered not very bright. The tiger suddenly pins CL against the wall, annoyed by his words. CL shouts back, calling her a big dummy, and promptly bites her arm, causing the tiger to cry out in surprise. The tiger tries to pin CL down, but he struggles and bites her arm hard, causing her to cry out in pain. Despite the bite, the tiger mocks him, asking if outmuscling others is all he knows how to do, and insists that this behavior is exactly why he's a dummy. The tiger pushes CL back, telling him to quit it. She teases him for being unable to keep his cool, warning that if she stays too close, she might just bite him back. As she speaks, she tightens her grip on his scaly tail. The tiger's expression turns serious as she holds CL's tail, honestly admitting that she doesn't know anything about dragons. CL looks back at her, caught off guard by her confession. CL asks what knowing more about him would actually do for her. The tiger remains silent for a moment, her expression turning pensive as she thinks, at the end of the day, while her hand continues to press firmly against his scaly tail. Fo looks at the tiger with a knowing smirk, bluntly stating that in the end, she is just going to eat him anyway. The tiger remains silent, her expression contemplative. The tiger leans in, promising to let CL in on a secret. However, CL suddenly snaps, lunging at her with a determined look to prove that he is no longer just a kid. The tiger is left completely stunned by his sudden outburst. The tiger looks at CL and asks if he is just a baby. After a brief stunned silence, CL suddenly unfurls a powerful wing and takes flight. Soaring high against the backdrop of a full moon, he looks down and declares that she is one dumb tiger. As the story transitions into the third chapter, titled The Intellect and Instinct, CL and the tiger are shown in a moment of serene companionship, with CL now appearing in his grand CL form. A deer gallops frantically through the woods, trying to evade its pursuer. In a sudden, powerful movement, the tiger pounces, pinning the prey down with overwhelming force. The tiger pounces on the aven, squeezing it tightly. With a powerful clench of its jaws, the tiger crushes the aven's neck, ending the struggle instantly. As the tiger sits calmly beside its prey, CL approaches in his CL form, observing the cold reality of the predator's instinct. The lifeless body of the aven lies still in the grass. Nearby, the tiger and CL rest together in a moment of heavy silence, the brutality of the hunt fading into a strange shared peace. Curious, CL asks the tiger why she is licking herself, and she explains that it is to remove the scent of her prey. Admiring her, CL reaches out to touch her, remarking that her fur always looks nice. The tiger suddenly jolts and snaps at him, warning him not to touch her. Amused by the reaction, CL teases her, asking if that is her weak point. CL continues to play with the tiger, gripping and stroking her soft belly. He curiously asks if her heart is located there, before leaning against her and teasingly noting that she is weak in that spot as well, causing the tiger to shudder. The tiger asks CL what he is doing, though she falls silent for a moment. Despite her words, she begins to purr, leading CL to smile mischievously and remark that she actually loves it when someone pets her. The quiet affection is interrupted as the tiger's instincts kick back in. With a sharp, focused gaze and a rustle brush, she stands up and begins to move forward, her predatory nature returning as she senses something nearby. CL casually eats a piece of meat from the carcass, seemingly unbothered. However, the atmosphere shifts as the tiger lets out a fierce growl, facing off against rival tiger. The intruder boldly claims the area as its own, but the tiger warns that the territory is about to change hands. The standoff breaks as the two beasts launch themselves at each other. With powerful roars and sharp claws, the tiger and the rival tiger engage in a brutal fight, each striving to dominate the other. The tiger unleashes a flurry of savage attacks, clawing and pinning the rival tiger to the earth. With overwhelming strength, she suppresses her opponent, leaving the rival tiger struggling beneath her. Nearby, CL watches the violent struggle, witnessing the raw power of the tiger's territorial dominance. Overwhelmed and pinned down, the rival tiger desperately cries out for the tiger to wait, admitting defeat and conceding the victory. With the rival tiger now submitting, the fight comes to an end, leaving the tiger as the undisputed ruler of the territory. With the battle over, both tigers shift into their human forms. The rival tiger sits on the ground, laughing off his defeat, and admitting that the tiger got the better of him. The tiger acknowledges his toughness, while the rival tiger explains that he had only entered the territory in search of some game. After admitting defeat, the rival tiger makes a sudden and bold proposal, asking the tiger to mate with him because he desires her strong lineage. CL is left speechless by the absurdity of the request, while the tiger looks on in utter disbelief. The rival tiger enthusiastically argues that they both want offspring, and that the tiger seems to have no litter of her own. Surprisingly, CL gives his approval, leaving the tiger speechless. Just as the rival tiger is about to celebrate and move forward, the tiger abruptly tells him to wait. The rival tiger doubles down on his proposal with a shocking suggestion, claiming they could simply feed CL to their future children. He mocks CL's weak lineage, warning the tiger that mating with someone like him would only dilute her own power. With a confident smirk, he insists that she should choose a male who is stronger than her. The rival tiger comes to a conclusion. If he can surpass the tiger in strength, they will be able to produce an even more powerful litter. The tiger responds with a sharp smack to his face, effectively ending the conversation. As the rival tiger cheerfully departs to train, the tiger coldly tells him never to show himself again. The rival tiger pauses, admitting that he had given the matter some thought. He tells the tiger that she should be more careful before acting. As he turns to leave, he reveals the driving force behind his proposal, a desire to leave behind many offspring so that he can survive even in death. Watching the rival tiger depart, CL remarks that such a drive for legacy is typical of the tiger's kind. When the tiger asks if he is different, CL solemnly declares that he has no desire to continue his bloodline and intends to let it end with him. CL looks away, reflecting on his nature as a dragon. He then asks the tiger a poignant question, wondering if she hates dragons. CL reveals a hidden sorrow, admitting that he hates himself for being born a dragon. The tiger, curious and concerned, asks him why he feels that way, but CL simply shuts down the conversation, refusing to tell her as he continues to eat. CL changes the subject, asking the tiger why her kind is so obsessed with leaving behind descendants. The tiger calmly explains that it is necessary for the sake of the family. Unconvinced, CL tosses the twig from his mouth and tells her to hold up. With a sudden movement, CL pins the tiger to the ground. Leaning over her, he challenges her, reminding her that as a predator, she should be eating him instead of talking. After letting her up, CL looks back at her with a confident smile, suggesting that he pick up right where he left off. CL maintains his position, pinning the tiger to the grassy ground of the forest clearing. Sunlight filters through the towering trees above them, illuminating the provocative scene as the predator remains trapped beneath the young dragon. The intensity of the moment fades into a quiet peace. The tiger lies still in the tall grass, letting out a soft rhythmic purr. CL settles beside her, his gaze softening as he looks at the predator who chose not to hunt him. They remain there together in the silence of the forest. A new chapter begins. CL is depicted amidst the overwhelming presence of a colossal dragon, signaling a shift in the story as chapter the 4th. Drought-clearing rains commences. The scene shifts to a flashback of CL's birth. An egg cracks open, and a tiny chirping CL emerges into the world. The tiger greets the little one warmly, noting that he is finally hatched, though she observes that he is still very small. The tiger picks up the tiny CL, dangling him helplessly in the air. With a predatory air, she suggests having a snack, leaving the CL to let out a small frightened cry. The flashback ends, returning to the present where CL is seen exhausted. He scratches the ground and pants heavily, struggling to regain his composure before finally letting out a long sigh of relief. As he recovers his breath, CL looks over at the tiger, who now lies motionless and unconscious on the ground. The scene shifts to a heavy rainstorm. CL walks alone through the deluge, his clothes completely drenched. He pauses for a moment, opening his hand to feel the cold rain falling on his palm, before slowly clenching it into a tight fist with a look of resolve on his face. CL continues his journey through the heavy rain, heading toward a dark opening in the cliffs. In a moment of transition, he sheds his human-like appearance and transforms into a magnificent CL, standing resolute against the storm. CL comes across a nest of baby birds chirping loudly in the rain. He reaches out and picks one of the small creatures up, holding it precariously over his open mouth, mirroring the way the tiger once held him. CL gazes up at the falling rain, fully embracing his CL form. He moves through the wilderness, observing a nest of baby birds and crossing paths with small weasels and a massive bear. Standing atop a jagged peak amidst the relentless rain, CL throws his head back and releases a thunderous roar that echoes through the desolate landscape. The tiger stirs, slowly regaining consciousness amidst the heavy rains. She sits up with an alert expression and steps forward into the wet ground, gazing out at the desolate landscape. Drenched in the pouring rain, the tiger looks up with a bewildered expression. As she takes in her surroundings, She transforms, her body shifting back into the form of a powerful tiger, now fully returned to her tiger form. The tiger slowly rises from the ground. She walks through the pouring rain, her gaze sharp and observant as she surveys the desolate, rainy landscape. The tiger continues her walk through the pouring rain, her attention caught by a distant squeal. Following the sound, she approaches a rocky overhang, where a small weasel cautiously peeks out from a hole before stepping out into the open. The tiger looms over the small weasel, who hisses and growls in fear. Ignoring the aggression, the tiger asks if the creature has seen the dragon. Eden cautiously replies that it saw the dragon heading north. Sensing the weasel's terror, the tiger calmly reassures it, stating that she is not going to attack. Determined to find the CL, the tiger pushes through the pouring rain, climbing steep cliffs and navigating the jagged landscape. After a grueling pursuit, she finally catches sight of CL, who stands solitary atop a towering peak in the distance. Atop the desolate, rainy peak, the tiger finally finds CL sitting in solitude. Looking at him with a heartbroken expression, she softly pleads, "Don't up and leave like that." CL looks at the tiger and playfully blames her for not watching over him, reminding her with a smirk that he is her prey. The tiger doesn't hesitate. She shifts into her beast form and bites down on him. Startled, CL shouts for her to let him go as she carries him away through the rain. CL struggles and shouts that he can move by himself, but the tiger ignores his protests, asking if he's even listening. After carrying him a short distance, the tiger abruptly drops him on the wet ground and shakes her fur to dry off from the rain. The tiger gently pulls CL against her warm body, warning him that he'll catch a cold. CL leans into her fur, looking up with a quiet, thoughtful expression. Outside, the rain continues to patter against the leaves. Feeling safe and warm, drifts off to sleep while snuggling deep into the tiger's thick fur. The tiger gazes down at the sleeping boy, her expression soft yet troubled as she softly confesses, "I had a bad dream." The tiger quietly shares the details of her nightmare, admitting she dreamed she was eaten by a dragon. She explains that dragons are known to eat their own kind, with some even targeting newborns. CL, now awake, bluntly remarks that such behavior is exactly why they are all gone. The tiger looks on, unable to imagine why they would eat each other for no reason. The tiger scoffs, calling the dragon family stupid for their cannibalistic ways. Suddenly, she shifts her mood and begins rubbing her face against CL with affection. CL, caught off guard, tries to push her away, reminding her that he isn't a tiger. However, the tiger ignores him, nuzzling him so intensely that CL cries out in pain, telling her to stop. The playful nuzzling stops, as the tiger's expression turns solemn and conflicted. She looks away, wondering aloud what she should do. CL looks up at her, puzzled by her sudden shift in tone, and eventually falls silent as he observes her. The tiger's momentary hesitation fades, and she tells CL to continue. Feeling the chill of the rainy night, CL looks up at her and simply asks her to warm him up. The tiger leans in close to CL, their faces nearly touching in a moment of quiet intimacy. In her tiger form, she curls her massive, warm body around the small boy, shielding him from the cold night as he nestles deeply into her fur. The perspective shifts to the stormy sky, where a large bird glides through the rain, soaring over the sharp, desolate peaks of the mountains. As the large bird flies over the peaks, a colossal and menacing adult dragon is revealed, watching silently from the heights with a piercing gaze. The tiger begins her day with a long stretch and a few scratches against a tree. After a moment of quiet reflection, she walks through the rugged terrain and comes across a woman standing by the water's edge. Standing by the riverside, the tiger stretches her arms behind her head, marking the beginning of a new chapter titled Elopement. As the tiger lingers by the river, rival tiger approaches her with a casual greeting. The newcomer curiously asks if she has finally eaten the dragon, and the two share a familiar, affectionate moment, rubbing against one another. The conversation quickly turns into a clash. As the rival tiger lunges at the tiger, they struggle violently, with the rival tiger eventually gaining the upper hand and pinning her down. CL steps in, holding a bone and questioning the chaos. While the rival tiger dismisses the fight as mere playing, CL stands firmly in front of the tiger, telling the rival tiger to scram if he has no business with her. Surprised by CL's protectiveness, the rival tiger realizes he has something important to tell the tiger. CL reveals that another dragon, specifically a female one, has reportedly been spotted. The rival tiger claims that the migratory birds provided the information and that there is no mistake. But CL remains skeptical, stating he trusts neither the bird's rumors nor the rival tiger. The rival tiger concedes that he hasn't actually seen the dragon himself. CL provides more specific details about the female dragon, noting that she has 4 horns and 4 whiskers. When the tiger asks about her location, CL admits he isn't entirely sure, but mentions that she was heard to be in the southeast. CL grabs the tiger's hand, urgently pleading with her to leave their current location for somewhere far away. When the tiger questions where they should go, Seal argues that staying put is more dangerous, fearing that news of his existence has already reached the female dragon. However, the tiger warns him that venturing outside their territory carries its own set of risks, while the rival tiger looks on in surprise. The rival tiger questions why Ciel is running from the female dragon, pointing out that she is of his own kind and could even be a mate. Ciel coldly replies that her presence would only provide more prey for the tigers to eat. Determined to leave, Ciel pulls the tiger away, but the rival tiger reaches out to stop them, his expression turning serious. The rival tiger boldly demands that Ciel leave the tiger behind. When Ciel asks why, the rival tiger declares his intention to mate with her one day, admitting that while there are other tigers, she is the only one he wants because she is both strong and beautiful. The tiger looks on in surprise as Ciel stands his ground with a determined gaze. He firmly challenges the rival tiger, telling him to fight him for her. The rival tiger agrees, accepting the challenge as the tension between them peaks. The rival tiger suggests a race to the top of a nearby boulder. As Ciel is reluctant to engage in a fistfight to avoid getting injured, Ciel agrees to the race on the condition that he will not fly. Ensuring a fair competition, he sets the stakes. If the rival tiger wins, he can do as he pleases with the tiger. But if Ciel wins, the rival tiger must give up on her entirely. Confident in his own abilities, scoffs at the idea of losing to a dragon who refuses to fly. The race kicks off with a sudden burst of speed. The rival tiger charges ahead, splashing through the terrain and clawing his way up the steep rock face. Smug and confident in his lead, he looks back at Ciel and boasts that he is crushing him, a triumphant grin on his face. The tiger looks on in confusion as a sudden loud scream pierces the air. Both Ciel and the tiger in her human form turn their gaze toward the peak of the boulder, wondering what has happened to the rival tiger. The tiger shouts in disbelief, accusing Ciel of running away from the match. Ciel calmly admits that he never truly felt like competing with the rival tiger to begin with. Looking at him with a frown, the tiger finds his lack of spirit utterly embarrassing. The tiger scolds Ciel for refusing to honor the duel he initiated, but Ciel bluntly admits he only did it to get rid of the rival. When the tiger calls him a liar, Ciel brushes it off with a dismissive whatever and begins climbing a tree. He tells her that if she wants to stay with the other tiger, she is welcome to do so, adding that he would be happy to avoid the risk of being eaten anyway. Ciel continues to argue, claiming that the tiger doesn't understand dragon aesthetics, and that strength isn't just about fighting and winning. He tells her not to lump him in with meat-headed tigers. Annoyed by his cheek, the tiger suddenly bites down on Ciel's tail, leaving him shouting in pain. The tension settles as Ciel and the tiger move deeper into the woods. Ciel looks on with a pout, still annoyed by the tiger's behavior, while the tiger follows silently behind him, their strange bond returning to its usual quiet rhythm. As they walk through the dense forest, the tiger suddenly freezes, her senses alerting her to something nearby. Ciel, noticing her sudden change in demeanor, looks on with curiosity and asks, "What is it?" As a low, rumbling sound echoes through the trees. As Ciel walks through the forest, a massive snake lunges from the shadows and grabs him in its coils. Sensing the danger, the tiger leaps forward with lightning speed to rescue Ciel from the predator's grip. With a powerful leap, the tiger charges forward to intercept the giant snake. Her expression is fierce and determined as she fights to save Ciel from the predator's grasp. The tiger's attack hits with overwhelming force, sending a massive shockwave through the landscape and causing the ground to rumble violently. The scene shifts to a serene waterfall as the chaos subsides. Ciel looks up, dazed and breathless, as he is released from the coils of the tali. The tiger reassures him that he is safe now, remarking that it was a very close shave. In a sudden turn of events, Tali recaptures Ciel, winding its enormous coils tightly around the boy. As Ciel looks on in shock, the Tali addresses the tiger with a chilling familiarity, calling her Hekidu and claiming to have missed her. Ciel lies motionless, completely enveloped by Tali's suffocating embrace with a dazed and weary expression. He is held fast as the ordeal enters a new phase, the serpent's maw. The camera pans across a towering waterfall cascading through the dense forest. Below, Tali remains coiled tightly around Ciel, observing the boy with a predatory curiosity. Tali comments on how hale and healthy Ciel looks, noting that he has grown since their last encounter. Trapped and terrified, Ciel screams for the Tali to let him go. Tali explains her reasoning for the tight grip, claiming that if she were careless, Ciel would simply flee far away. Ciel, though trapped, responds with a dry, "Yeah, no duh." Nearby, the tiger lets out a low, menacing growl, her patience wearing thin as Tali looms over the boy, preparing to act before he can escape. Tali dismissively calls the tiger pesky, seemingly unfazed by the predator's anger. The tiger lets out a low, menacing growl, digging its claws into the ground and crouching low, ready to pounce. As Tali begins to speak again, the atmosphere grows heavy with the imminent clash. The battle takes a sudden turn as Tali strikes, biting the tiger. The tiger collapses to the ground, her body trembling as poison courses through her veins. Trapped in the serpent's coils, CL watches in shock while Tally coldly explains that the poison will soon leave the tiger completely immobilized. The tiger's face contorts in agony, her strength fading as the potent poison courses through her veins. CL, still trapped in Tally's massive grip, watches her with a look of deep concern and helplessness. The tiger finally succumbs to the poison, falling heavily to the ground with a thud. As CL watches in horror, Tally looms over the fallen predator, coldly remarking on the great timing and announcing her plan to dine on the tiger's flesh. Tally slithers across the ground, but CL stands his ground looking down at the Tally, desperate to save the tiger. CL demands to know how to cure the poison Tally injected. Tally looks at CL, noting how much he has grown. CL ignores the comment and demands an answer. Looking at the immobilized tiger on the ground, Tally questions CL's desire to save her, reminding him that the tiger intends to eat him. As CL scratches at her scales, Tally finds his attachment to his predator odd. CL asks what will happen to the tiger, but Tally coldly questions why he should even care. She tells him that he doesn't have the right to say such things, while CL looks on with a fierce and determined expression. Tally looks down coldly, informing Sile addressing him as Hekadu that the situation is hopeless and there is nothing to be done. As the tiger lies motionless and defeated on the ground, Tally explains that once they reach this state, it is the end. Her massive body shifting closer to her prey, CL remains by the tiger's side, his expression heavy with grief. As he gently reaches out to hold her hand, Tally watches them, questioning why he is so deeply attached to a creature that is naturally his predator. Tally dismisses CL's questions, wondering what he hopes to gain from them. However, as the Tally looms over the scene, Tally suddenly reveals a glimmer of hope, mentioning that there might be one way to save the tiger. Tally reveals the solution to save the immobilized tiger: CL's own seal blood. Skeptical CL questions if CL blood really works on everything. Tally explains that when she first tried to capture him, her poison had no effect regardless of how long she waited, proving the extraordinary nature of his blood. Tally explains that CL's CL blood is resistant to her venom, suggesting it as a potential cure. CL questions if it will definitely work, but Tally warns him that it is only a possibility and the decision is his. With time running out, CL lets out a frustrated click of his tongue and transforms into his CL form, determined to save the tiger. CL quickly draws his own blood by biting into his arm in his CL form. Returning to his human form, he leans over the unconscious tiger, urgently urging her to drink the blood to counteract Talus venom. CL leans over the immobilized tiger, his expression filled with desperation. He presses his bleeding arm to her lips, forcing her to drink his blood. As she instinctively swallows, a glimmer of hope remains that his dragon blood will neutralize the poison. Having administered his blood, CL remains pressed close to the unconscious tiger, his face just inches from hers, as he desperately hopes the dragon blood will neutralize the venom and save her. CL urgently tells the unconscious tiger to swallow his blood. As she gulps it down, he gasps, watching her closely for any reaction. He then stands back, looking down at her as he waits to see if the dragon blood will save her. Tally observes the scene from a distance, wondering if CL's blood will truly be enough to save the tiger. CL lingers close to the unconscious woman, his face etched with worry, before pulling back to reflect on the situation. The vast, rugged cliffs and a falling stream of water surround them, highlighting the quiet tension of the moment. Tally tells CL that he has done enough. CL looks down at the unconscious tiger, knowing he has exhausted all his options. Tally adds that if the dragon blood truly acts as an antidote, the tiger will wake up in due time. Night descends upon the desolate landscape. As a wolf howls into the starry sky, Tally remarks that night has finally fallen. The tiger remains unconscious on the ground. Tally turns to CL, noting that since everyone knows a great serpent resides in this waterfall basin, they are unlikely to have any unwanted company. Tally watches CL with a curious and calculating gaze, questioning if the tiger is truly that important to him. She remarks on his devotion, noting that he was willing to wound himself just to protect her. As CL turns and begins to walk away in silence, Tally calls out to him, wondering where he is going. CL looks back at Tally with a fierce, determined expression, warning her that if anything happens to the tiger, he will rip her in two. Tally only lets out a small, amused chuckle. As she coils her massive body around the rocks, she remarks that he never changes. As a new chapter begins, titled The Beyond, CL hovers in the air facing Tally, who reaches her hand up toward him amidst the serene, rocky landscape of the waterfall. The tiger lies still and unconscious on the ground. Tally's tongue flickers, lightly touching her skin. Then, a slight twitch of the hand and the opening of an eye signal that the tiger is finally waking up. Tally observes with a smirk as her efforts pay off, causing the tiger to snap awake and leap away instinctively. The tiger, now fully alert and snarling with intensity, immediately asks, "Where's the dragon?" The tiger stares in disbelief, as Tali calmly remarks that the dragon was delicious. Horrified, the tiger asks if she really ate him, to which Tali nonchalantly confirms that it was the very reason she caught him in the first place. Tali looks on with a mocking smile, pitying the tiger for her loss. Enraged by the claim that Ciel has been eaten, the tiger's eyes flare with fury as she lunges forward, vowing to rip Talus' stomach open. The rival tiger lunges forward, sinking its teeth deep into Talus' body with a vicious bite. The tiger immediately rushes in to intervene, shouting for the attack to stop and desperately swearing that Talus' earlier words were obviously just a jest. The tiger observes the scene with a solemn gaze, remarking on how savage the situation is. In her beast form, she declares that she raised the child, confirming to her human self that she is speaking of the dragon. Tali, now in a humanoid form, looks on in confusion, wondering why. The tiger reveals the dark reason behind her care for the dragon. Recalling how tiny Ciel was as a baby, she admits that eating him then wouldn't have been enough to satisfy her hunger. She wanted him to grow larger so she could taste more of his flesh. As she speaks, she leans in close to a bewildered Tali, her predatory nature on full display. The tiger asks Tali if she feels the same way, drawing a parallel between their predatory natures. With a cunning smile, the tiger declares that they are like-minded, both viewing the dragon as the ultimate prey. A predatory bird catches a fish, echoing the instincts of the two women. Tali agrees with the tiger, noting that the kid is always mouthing off, concluding that such behavior is simply typical for dragons. The tiger admits that she often finds it difficult to understand what Ciel is thinking, a sentiment that Tali readily agrees with. To explain further, the tiger suggests looking at the dragon's tail, describing how its gentle swishing indicates a normal state, while forceful swings signal anger or intimidation. She begins to describe how his tail behaves when he is happy or being doted on. Amidst the bodies of the defeated wolves, Tali stands in silence. Suddenly, a blur of movement sweeps past her as Ciel's tail whooshes through the air before she can react. Ciel leaps forward and wraps his arms around her in a sudden, affectionate hug, leaving Tali wide-eyed and stunned. Tali looks at Ciel with a confused expression, still processing his sudden display of affection. Shaking off the surprise, she tells him that if he can move, they should get going. As the two of them prepare to depart from the area, Ciel's tail swishes behind him as Tali watches him with a subtle, amused smile. Exhausted from the ordeal, Ciel staggers forward, urged on by Tali to move quickly. Ciel collapses onto the ground, completely spent. Tali looks down at him and suggests that he should rest, but Ciel stubbornly insists they don't have the time. Tali quickly shuts him down, pointing out that in his current sorry state, he would even be able to make it out of the basin. As Tali smirks at his predicament, Ciel inwardly admits that the tiger can actually speak sense, before snapping at her to shut up. Tali looks down at the exhausted Ciel, commenting on the fact that he had been out hunting and flying around all night. With a sigh of relief, she transforms back into her massive snake form, settling in beside him to rest. Tali reflects on the name she gave Ciel, calling him Hikidu. She tells the tiger that those one treasures deserve names, though the tiger is baffled that Tali would name her future meal. With a sly smile, Tali admits it was a calculated move to keep him from running away before he grew big enough to be eaten, though she notes that he eventually caught wind of her true intentions. The tiger looks at Tali with confusion, questioning why she has become so close to the boy. Tali admits that she wouldn't typically go out of her way to save a random stranger. As she gazes at Ciel sleeping peacefully against her coils, Tali's expression softens, and she muses to herself about how things have turned out in the end. Tali looks at the sleeping Ciel, pondering the mysterious and often cruel nature of dragons. She muses about how they view themselves as superior to all other beings and their tendency to devour their own kind. Sighing that things were bound to turn out this way, Tali describes the arrogance of dragons, who looked down on all land creatures and claimed the skies for themselves. This pride sparked a rebellion among the birds, who spread a rumor that eating a dragon's heart granted immortality. Lured by this lie, various beasts began hunting and devouring dragons that descended to Earth, eventually realizing that regardless of the rumor's truth, the taste of dragon flesh was truly sublime. Tali continues her tale, describing how the Mika began to devour one another. This internal strife, combined with their inability to descend to Earth for hunting, led to a reproductive crisis. Their own arrogance prevented them from seeking peace with other species, and so the once mighty Mika eventually perished. Tali concludes her story, stating that was what she had been told. The tiger acknowledges the tragedy, noting that the dragons simply suffered the consequences of their own actions. As the conversation fades, Tali looks over at the sleeping Ciel, who is visibly distressed, and realizes he is having another nightmare. Ciel remains trapped in his nightmare, his expression filled with distress. The tiger watches him silently, while Tali coils her massive body around them both, offering a strange sense of protective security. a vision unfolds, showing Ciel drifting weightlessly against a vast sky near a towering waterfall. Tally, in her massive snake form, looms protectively and gives a stern warning. Don't let on that you know about his tail. Ciel looks on with a distant, solemn expression. The vision continues as a Neri looms over Tally. The dragon sternly warns her not to fill the tiger's head with nonsense, leaving Tally looking startled as she holds a small bundle. Tally looks out over the horizon, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the world before her. Beside her, Neri stands silently, watching the vast expanse. Ciel asks with curiosity if a tiger is truly capable of such things. Tally looks on with a knowing smile, her thoughts lingering on the presence of the massive dragon. With a gentle invitation, she tells Ciel, "Let's go," as they walk together toward the horizon, marking the end of the chapter. In a light-hearted bonus comic, titled The Pair Without Tails, the tiger and Ciel are seen sharing a cozy moment in bed. Their peace is interrupted by the sound of a doorbell. As the tiger prepares to head out, Ciel is shocked to see her wearing only a shirt and underwear. He frantically tells her to get fully dressed, but the tiger nonchalantly insists she is already dressed, leading to a comedic confrontation. The tiger spots an old acquaintance and greets him with enthusiasm, suggesting they grab some tea together. However, in her excitement, she accidentally stomps hard on Ciel's foot. A grumpy Ciel glares up at them, and when the man expresses surprise at seeing him, Ciel responds with a cold, mirroring remark. The tiger shares her frustrations with a friend, complaining that Hikidu often ignores her to play video games, which leads to frequent arguments. Her friend sympathetically consoles her, calling Hikidu a naughty boy, and suggesting that she should simply drop the ingrate and come stay at her place instead. Meanwhile, Hikidu is seen staring at his phone in complete shock after receiving a message that reads, "I'm not coming home today." The tiger and Ciel stand in a quiet gallery, gazing at a pair of large paintings depicting a dragon and a tiger. The tiger wonders aloud if the two creatures in the art are enemies, to which Ciel simply replies that he doesn't know. The story transitions to a new chapter. High above a deep valley, Neri the Neri floats majestically in the air. Rin the Rin flutter around her, delivering the news that someone has finally arrived. Ciel makes his appearance, standing with a neutral expression upon the massive, scaly tail of Neri. This marks the beginning of a new chapter titled Mother. Ciel stands his ground on the rocky terrain, looking up at the immense head of Neri. The massive dragon's presence is overwhelming, yet Ciel remains calm as he confronts the creature, their eyes locking in a silent encounter. Neri looks at Ciel with amusement, remarking on how rare it is to have such a visitor. Ciel remains stoic, ignoring the pleasantries, to ask if another dragon had been there. Neri confirms that it happened a long time ago, prompting Ciel to ask which direction that dragon went. Ciel and Tally set their course for the west, intending to avoid someone they do not wish to encounter. However, the tiger smirks, noting that if she remembers correctly, the others have already headed west. The tiger looks at Tally with deep suspicion, asking if she is lying. Tally asks what makes her say that, but the tiger bluntly replies that she cannot imagine a snake ever telling the truth. Tally then shifts into her massive snake form, simply stating that she figured she might as well be honest. Tally fully reveals her true nature as a Tally. However, the atmosphere turns predatory as the massive dragon Neri looms over her, coldly declaring that she is about to be eaten. The tension snaps as Neri and Tally launch into a fierce confrontation. Tally lunges through the water, snapping her massive jaws in a desperate attempt to defend herself or attack the towering dragon. Neri strikes with a powerful chomp, quickly following up by winding her long-scaled body around Tally. With a tight bind, Neri completely immobilizes the Tally. Neri tightens her grip, squeezing Tally with overwhelming power. As the snake struggles, Neri delivers a brutal, decisive blow, stabbing her sharp claw deep into Tally's flesh. Neri's attack proves overwhelming as she crushes Tally with immense power. With a final decisive strike called Hikidu, she leaves the Tally bloodied and broken. The violent clash ends, replaced by a tense argument over food. Neri claims the remaining portion for herself, ignoring Tally's complaint that her share was too small. With a sudden, Neri silences Tally, coldly reminding her that crying will not get her what she wants in this cruel world. Before barking dismissively at her, Tally tries to get the upper hand, declaring that Neri must overpower her to take what is hers. She coils her body tightly around the dragon with a smug grin, but the effort is futile, as Neri finds the squeeze to be nothing more than a tickle. Tally lies defeated and coiled on the rocky terrain. Neri moves with effortless power, while Noah's birds observe the scene from a high vantage point. Ciel looks up, his expression calm as he watches the Neri. Ciel looks around the serene landscape, admiring the clean water and the open terrain. Finding the area suitable for staying, he turns back to Neri and asks for her opinion. Lady Shinsui and her hooded companion agree that the area is indeed habitable. The hooded man asks Lady Shinsui what she intends to do once she finally sees him, while Ciel, unable to contain his excitement, exclaims that he wants to meet him already. CL looks up at the sky, reminiscing that it will be like old times. With open arms and excitement, he declares his wish to be friends with the person they are meeting, noting that they are the only ones left. Lady Shinsui smiles warmly, assuring him that he will be able to do it. While her companion remains silent, CL beams with confidence, declaring that they can certainly count on it. Noah's birds take to the skies, agreeing to begin the search for the mysterious person. As the journey continues, CL rides atop the tiger, moving steadily through a serene bamboo forest. CL and the tiger find a moment of peace, resting side by side on a high rocky ledge. As they look out over the landscape, a new chapter of their journey unfolds: the fox and the leopard. The scene shifts to a new pair of companions. A powerful leopard walks through the grass, accompanied by a small, innocent-looking fox. The two move together across the landscape, beginning their own journey. The leopard drops the fox, sending the little creature tumbling and rolling across the grass. As the fox comes to a stop, it looks up with an expression of pure joy and cries out, "Mommy!" while the leopard responds with a playful snap of its jaws. The tranquility is shattered as another leopard appears, growling with aggression. The newcomer looks on with disdain, questioning the first leopard's motives and asking what she possibly gains from protecting the small creature. To the rival leopard, the bond is nonsensical, coldly reminding her that she is a leopard and he is merely a fox. The leopard lets out a ferocious roar, declaring that the fox is her child. Driven by a protective instinct, she threatens to kill the intruder and lunges forward, viciously attacking the other leopard to ensure the fox's safety. The tiger pounces with overwhelming force, striking the leopard in a brutal clash. Despite the attack, the leopard remains determined, keeping her body between the predator and the fox huddled beside her. The leopard glares at the tiger, demanding to know why it must interfere and telling it to go away. The tiger coldly refuses, admitting that the situation simply irks them. Without further words, the leopard pounces, and the two beasts collide in a violent explosion of claws and teeth, locked in a savage struggle. The clash turns brutal as the tiger overpowers the leopard, pinning her down and delivering sharp swipes. The leopard struggles to keep up, her teeth clenching in pain and frustration. However, as she glances back, her eyes burn with a fierce, unwavering rage, and she lets out a guttural growl, refusing to submit. Just as the tiger lunges forward, the leopard quickly grabs the fox and dashes away. With a sudden, powerful leap, the leopard carries the fox to safety, putting distance between them and the tiger. Just as the leopard attempts to flee, CL strikes with a sudden, powerful blow from his tail, sending the leopard crashing into the dirt. In the chaos, CL calmly catches the fox in his arms, leaving the defeated leopard staggering and groaning in pain. The tiger lets out a fierce roar, warning the leopard to stay away from them. While CL safely holds the fox, he transforms into his CL form, looming over the fallen predator. Together, the tiger and CL coldly discuss how to permanently neutralize the leopard, suggesting they either eat a limb or simply choke the life out of him. The defeated leopard walks away, grumbling that they can have it their way. CL, holding the fox in his arms, tells the tiger not to get involved in such nonsense, but the tiger quickly points out that he stepped in as well. CL defensively argues that he only did so because she started it first. As the leopard disappears into the distance, the little fox lets out a happy woof. The leopard lies exhausted and defeated under the shade of the trees. In a surprising turn of events, the fox approaches the predator, gently nuzzling against it in a gesture of forgiveness and kindness. CL and the tiger stand back, watching the quiet, tender moment unfold between the two unlikely companions. As the tension settles, the leopard reveals a grim truth. It explains that its litter was slaughtered by another male of its own kind, a brutal instinct to eliminate any threats to the spread of his own seed. CL, holding the fox, looks on with a solemn and shocked expression, unable to fathom such cruelty within the same species. The leopard shares a poignant memory, recalling the moment it discovered the fox kit, sleeping beside the corpse of its parent. Overcome with pity, the leopard admitted it simply couldn't leave the small creature behind. Watching the pair, CL reflects on their bond, noting that they are entirely different beings who live completely different lives. The leopard concludes its story, simply stating that the kit needs it. Watching the unlikely pair, CL looks up at the tiger and asks if they are together as well, drawing a parallel between the leopard's bond with the fox and his own relationship with the tiger. A montage unfolds, showing the leopard and the fox kit curled up together in a peaceful sleep on a tree branch under a starry night. The scenes shift to the leopard standing as a solitary sentinel atop a high cliff and moving with cautious precision through the wilderness, highlighting the protective and lonely nature of its existence. As the leopard looks on, a powerful scene unfolds under the starry night. The tiger sits poised and calm, while the massive form of the seal curves around her in a protective embrace, visually confirming the deep and unconventional bond they share. Ciel's voice booms with a cold warning. I did warn you. In a sudden burst of overwhelming power, the seal slams the leopard into the ground and swipes it aside with ease. As the leopard is thrown back, Ciel lets out a thunderous roar, with the tiger standing nearby, witnessing the seal's raw strength. The intensity of the battle fades into a profound silence. Ciel and the tiger sit side by side atop a high cliff, gazing out at the vast, shimmering horizon under a blanket of stars, sharing a moment of quiet companionship. The tiger woman leans in close, rubbing her head against Ciel in a tender gesture of affection. As they lie together under the vast, starry night, a peaceful silence falls between them, reflecting the deep and unusual bond they share. Ciel leans in, affectionately licking the tiger woman's shoulder. She looks at him with a soft, calm expression, and gently reaches out to stroke his massive snout, deepening their quiet moment of connection. The tiger woman playfully yanks Ciel's cheek, causing the massive Ciel to let out a soft, amused chuckle. As they rest together under the night sky, her expression turns tender and determined as she promises to find a way for him to live a longer life. The tiger woman looks up at the stars, wondering what the point of living a long life even is. Ciel quickly cheers her up, suggesting that they might find someone who has lived a long time and knows the answer. He playfully tells her not to worry her pretty little head over the complicated stuff. As they share a tender moment under the night sky, the scene transitions to a vast snow-covered mountain range and a frozen forest. Amidst the whistling wind, the tiger carries Ciel on her back, walking steadily through the snow. Ciel leans against her warm fur, drifting into a peaceful sleep as they continue their journey together. Having found a cave to shelter from the cold, Ciel tells the tiger to wait there. However, driven by the need for food, the tiger begins to slip away. Ciel quickly notices and grabs onto her tail, asking where she is going. Ciel looks at the tiger with a skeptical expression, questioning if she can even hunt by herself. As she stands in the snowy landscape, he further asks why her color is different from everyone else. The tiger tells Ciel to listen up, explaining that her white body provides the perfect camouflage in the snowy environment. She then solemnly mentions the name, Hakare. Moving with silent precision, the tiger blends seamlessly into the white landscape. She spots a herd of Airy and crouches low, her eyes locked on her prey. In a hushed tone, she warns Ciel to stay downwind and not give chase, preparing for a calculated strike. With a sudden, explosive burst of speed, the tiger leaps from her hiding spot and slams into one of the Airy. The force of the attack is immense, sending a powerful sound echoing across the silent, snowy wilderness. The tiger's strike is precise and lethal, her jaws locking firmly onto the Airy's neck. With a triumphant snort, she begins to drag the massive prey across the frozen terrain, leaving a deep, heavy trail in the snow as she carries her kill away. The tiger pants heavily, her breath visible in the freezing air as she recovers from the exertion of the kill. With heavy, deliberate steps, she trudges through the deep snow, her gaze sharp and focused. Suddenly, a massive bear lunges from the white expanse, colliding with the tiger in a powerful strike. The two predators engage in a brutal fight, snarling and roaring at each other as they struggle for dominance in the frozen wilderness. The bear lets out a terrifying roar, its hunger driving it to attack without regard for its own life. The tiger remains cautious, knowing the danger of approaching such a desperate predator. Between them lies the carcass of the Airy, with blood dripping into the snow, as both predators growl in a tense, deadly standoff. The aftermath of the fight leaves the tiger wounded. In her human form, she reminds herself to wash the injury in clean water and rest, noting that licking the wound would only make the gash worse. Once recovered enough to move, the tiger returns to her animal form and silently stalks a bird standing among the snowy reeds. With a sudden, powerful leap, the tiger lunges at the bird. Despite the bird's attempt to fly away, the tiger's reflexes are faster, snapping its jaws shut on the prey in midair before falling back into the snow with a heavy splash. Ciel waits inside the cold shelter of the cave, his breath visible in the freezing air. The tiger returns in her human form, dropping the bird she caught with a heavy thud. Looking at Ciel, she simply announces, "I caught something." Ciel looks at the tiger with a frown, telling her that she's late. Unfazed by his attitude, the tiger simply mentions that she is cold and tells him to come warm her up. The scene shifts to a moment where the tiger is guiding a young tiger named Hakare. After a small scuffle, the tiger warns Hakare to be careful. While the young one defensively claims he was bitten first, the tiger calmly advises him to control his emotions and remain vigilant of his surroundings. The tiger curls her massive, fluffy body and tail around Ciel, shielding him from the freezing cold of the cave. Ciel lets out a sigh of relief as he feels the warmth. The tiger then shifts into her human form, and the two lean against each other, sharing a quiet and intimate moment of comfort. Now in her human form, the tiger pulls Ciel into a tender and protective embrace, wrapping him tightly in her thick cloak to shield him from the biting cold. The tiger holds Ciel close, her gaze tender as he rests peacefully in the warmth of the fluffy cloak. Outside, the harsh winter wind howls across the desolate, snow-covered peaks, but inside the small cave, the two remain safe and cozy. Wrapped in a warm, fluffy cloak, CL leans against the tiger, finding solace in her embrace. He remains silent, his expression thoughtful and distant as they share a quiet moment of intimacy in the shelter of the cave. As they lie together in the quiet of the cave, CL suddenly digs his claws into the tiger's side. She lets out a sharp gasp of pain, while CL simply smirks, teasingly remarking that it looks painful. Irritated by CL's antics, the tiger tosses him away, leaving the young boy to shiver in the freezing air. CL quickly clings back to the tiger, complaining loudly that he wouldn't even be in this frozen wasteland if it weren't for her. The tiger, still grumpy, tells him to zip it and stay away, but CL continues to whine about the biting cold. A series of survival tips from the wild echo hunting for food, hiding for safety, and fleeing from enemies to stay alive. However, the reality is far more brutal, as a massive bear demands to eat the dragon, roaring with hunger. CL watches the scene with a serious expression, reminded of the constant danger that follows him. A massive dragon glides through the frozen forest, its presence haunting and powerful. In the quiet of the snow, the tiger pulls CL close to her, shielding him from the cold. As they look out into the wilderness, she reflects that the harsh lessons of survival aren't what they truly need. CL sits cross-legged in a dark void, surrounded by monstrous claws reaching out from the shadows. With a calm expression, he pulls open his shirt to reveal a distinct shaped mark on his chest, signaling the beginning of a new chapter titled Grabbing the Heart. As they move through the woods, CL and the tiger are suddenly intercepted by a mysterious man with a scar on his forehead and a troop of monkeys watching from the trees. The man expresses great delight at encountering a dragon in such a remote location, offering a welcoming gesture and inviting them to ask whatever they wish. CL, riding atop the tiger, looks on with a confused expression. Under the starry night sky, Ivan asks CL about the long lifespan of dragons, but CL quickly clarifies that he isn't asking for himself. Realizing CL's concern is for the tiger, Ivan solemnly explains that every living being has a predetermined lifespan that is impossible to change. CL bluntly tells Ivan that they are already aware of the nature of lifespans, which is exactly why they have been searching. Ivan solemnly observes that the boy has a long journey ahead of him. As the tension lingers, CL's curiosity is piqued when he spots two bowls containing a dark liquid resting in front of Ivan. Ivan warmly welcomes his guests, offering them aged fruit juice and dried deer meat to energize them. He further invites them to stay the night in a cozy den filled with hay and cattle fur to escape the cold. Despite the generous offer to celebrate the meeting of a dragon, CL coldly refuses, stating he doesn't need any of it. Ivan simply accepts the rejection. CL looks on in disbelief, telling the tiger she should be more suspicious of the stranger. Ignoring him, the tiger takes a large gulp of the drink, prompting Ivan to remark that her companion is already participating. As the tiger admits the drink tastes good, Ivan compliments her refined palate. Eventually, CL gives in and takes a small sip himself, though his skeptical expression leads Ivan to promise that the drink is not poisoned. The tiger looks at CL, wondering if he finds the drink as tasty as she does. As Ivan sips his own drink, he steers the conversation back to the subject of longevity. CL's expression turns serious, as he admits that he is aware of the rumors surrounding the dragon's heart. Ivan reveals the dark truth behind the dragon heart rumor, recounting how a monkey who ate one died shortly after. CL realizes the heart might be poisonous, especially after learning that a wolf who ate the monkey suffered the same fate. Ivan concludes that the heart certainly does not grant immortality, though he admits it could be a coincidence. The group settles in for the night within the shelter of a cave. CL lies back on the soft beds of hay and fur, letting out a contented sigh. As he curls up next to the tiger, the warmth of her body begins to seep into him, making him feel cozy and hot. As they lie together in the warmth of the den, the tiger suddenly looms over CL. Confused by her sudden intensity, CL asks, "What is the matter?" Only for the tiger to tell him that he has something she wants. Before he can even finish asking what she means, she slides his jacket open, revealing his chest and leaving him completely stunned. With a predatory and longing expression, the tiger whispers that she wants CL's heart. Suddenly, her sharp claws tear through his clothes, striking dangerously close to his chest. CL lets out a sharp cry of pain as the claw sinks into his chest. The scene shifts to reveal a harrowing memory. CL is bound tightly with ropes and pinned to the ground by the tiger, while a group of Rumi watches from the surroundings. Anne looks down at the bound CL with a sinister smile, noting that he is finally awake. He reveals his intention to run an experiment, plunging a blade into CL's body. Confused and in pain, CL transforms into a massive seal, letting out a powerful roar, yet he remains helplessly restrained by thick ropes. CL lets out a guttural roar of agony and rage, thrashing against the heavy restraints. As the ropes creak and tighten painfully around his neck, Even watches with a detached expression, coldly reminding the seal that his struggle is only making the bonds more lethal. The scene flickers between Seal's CL form and his human form, both trapped and suffering. The Rumi watch from the sidelines, noting that the tiger is not present. Even looks on with a chilling gaze, mentioning that the tiger is likely having sweet dreams while he prepares to proceed with his plans for CL. Even continues his cold interrogation, wondering aloud if dragons are immune to poison or if the poison only appears after they die. As CL lies bound in suffering, Even muses about the possibility of eating the dragon's heart before death. The sadistic atmosphere is suddenly shattered as a winged man descends with a powerful blow, stomping Even violently into the ground with a resounding crash. Evan is left reeling, thrown violently across the ground by the impact. As CL watches in shock, Aki stands over them with a cold, determined expression, announcing that he will be taking the dragon. The scene transitions to a bleak landscape of barren trees. Aki perches on a branch alongside another winged woman. As the story moves into chapter the 12th, The Dutiful Eagles, in the desolate forest, Sia finds herself targeted by a troop of aggressive Rumi. One of the creatures screams for the others to stop her, and the troop launches a fierce attack, leaping at her with loud, piercing shrieks. S reacts with lightning speed, slamming into the aggressive Rumi and knocking them aside with ease. However, as the chaos settles, a large, menacing man emerges, brandishing a knife and staring her down with a cold, piercing gaze. With a sudden and overwhelming strike, she sends the Rumi leader flying backward. Re crashes hard into the earth, his hand clawing at the dirt as he groans in pain, completely overpowered by Sia's strength. Aki and Sia stand tall, gazing down with indifference at the fallen Rumi leader, Ray, who remains stunned and motionless on the earth. With the fight over, Sia firmly grabs Ciel, pulling the seal along as they prepare to leave the desolate forest. The ambush continues as more Rumi leap from the canopy, attempting to intercept them. With effortless precision, Akai reacts, delivering a crushing kick that sends one of the beasts flying backward. Sai looks on as Aki clears the path, his expression remaining cold and determined. Aki calls out Misumi, signaling the departure. Sia swiftly swoops down, grabbing Ciel in her talons and soaring into the sky, safely carrying him away from the chaotic forest and the remaining Rumi. As they soar through the sky, Ciel panics and shouts for Sia to let him go. Sia warns him not to flail, but moments later she opens her talons and drops him, leaving the boy to fall freely toward the ground. Ciel plummets through the sky, completely bewildered by the sudden drop. Just as panic sets in, Sia swoops back in and grabs him once more, as he is carried away. Ciel looks on with a troubled expression, wondering why he cannot fly like her. After landing in a desolate, rocky landscape, Sia and Aki decide to take a short break. Ciel, still shaken and feeling the effects of the Rumi's actions, nervously asks if they intend to eat him. Sia gives a small chuckle and dismisses his fear, explaining that their goal is to bring him to a certain lady. Sia explains that the lady they are taking Ciel to is also a dragon, and that she wishes to be his friend and live together. Ciel is skeptical and resistant to the idea. When Sia reminds him that he is a dragon himself, Ciel bluntly confesses that he hates dragons, and by extension he hates himself. Sia asks Ciel about his story and why he is at a dragon's beck and call. She explains that she is visiting the lady out of gratitude because the dragon saved her life, stating that they wouldn't be alive without her. Ciel is incredulous, questioning how a dragon could save a bird and wondering if the person they are talking about is truly a dragon. Sia reflects on her past, recalling the haughty and overbearing dragons who look down on birds. While she cannot speak for all of their kind, she tells Ciel with a gentle smile that the lady they are going to see is a truly wonderful individual. C tells Ciel that since they are of the same kind, they will likely get along well as fellow survivors. She assures him that he will understand once he meets her, while softly noting that he must have been very lonely all this time. Ciel is haunted by memories of his own isolation, recalling the times he spent alone and forgotten. However, as Sia gazes at him with a kind and understanding expression, she reaches out to help him, offering a warmth and compassion he has rarely known. Ciel closes his eyes, lost in the weight of his own loneliness. However, as he opens them, a sharp sense of determination returns to his gaze. He takes a firm step forward, beginning to walk alongside Sia. With a look of resolve, Ciel begins to scale the steep rock wall. He grips the rough surface tightly, scratching his way upward as he pushes through the physical struggle to reach their destination. As they traverse the rugged mountains, Aki calls out to Sia. Leaning her head against a wing with a somber expression, seems haunted by a lingering question, silently wondering why. High above the jagged peaks, Noah searches the horizon, certain that Ciel hasn't traveled far. Meanwhile, Ciel pushes forward through the rocky wilderness, his gaze steady and resolute as he faces the daunting terrain ahead. As Ciel continues his journey through the rocks, he stumbles upon a tiger deep in sleep's end. Ciel's presence is marked by loud howls and scratching sounds, which abruptly wake the tiger. Startled and alert, the tiger snaps awake, sensing the young dragon's approach. Startled by a sudden movement, the tiger lets out a gasp as Arumi appears on the rocky ledge. She quickly settles herself, her expression turning sharp and focused as she listens to a faint trickling sound in the desolate landscape. Suddenly, a man with a tiger tail appears with a bright, energetic smile, calling out a cheerful greeting. He tells the tiger that it has been a long time since they last met, but as she remains silent, he playfully complains, telling her not to ignore him. In a display of aggression, the rival tiger pins down Rumi and demands to know the dragon's location. Rumi trembles, revealing that an eagle has taken him away. Later, in their human forms, the rival tiger tries to convince the tiger to stop searching, claiming that if an eagle caught him, he must have been eaten already. He attempts to pull her away, but the tiger stops him, her expression grim. On second thought, the rival tiger realizes they cannot know for sure if the dragon is truly gone. He quickly shifts his mood, enthusiastically encouraging the tiger to keep looking for him. While the tigers are searching for him, Ciel finds himself in grave danger. A wolf suddenly ambushes him, leaping from the shadows with predatory speed. Caught completely off guard, Ciel is violently knocked to the ground, struggling as the wolves close in on him. The wolves coordinate their assault, barking orders to surround Ciel. As they tighten the circle, they warn one another to be cautious of his powerful tail and to aim for his torso instead. Ciel, breathing heavily and visibly tense, prepares himself for the inevitable clash. Ciel swings his tail to fend off the leaping wolves, but before he can break free, a massive bird swoops down and grabs him in its talons. The predators are left grounded, howling in frustration as the bird carries Ciel far away from the battlefield. Ciel, now sitting on the ground, tells the cloaked man that he has no intention of meeting their dragon. Milo coldly responds that he doesn't plan on letting him meet anyway, confused. Ciel questions if they are following her orders, prompting a sharp inquiry from Milo that leaves Ciel bewildered. Milo confesses his reluctance to follow the orders of a mysterious woman, expressing a deep desire to get away from her. Ciel, confused, asks why he can't simply flee, but Milo coldly informs him that it is not an option. As Ciel tries to demand an explanation, Milo suddenly grabs him, shutting down the conversation by stating he cannot tell him. Milo walks alone through the quiet woods. Suddenly, a Noah descends from the sky and lands on a branch in front of him. Looking at the creature, Milo asks, "Find that dragon?" Noah simply replies that the dragon hasn't been found. However, the conversation is abruptly interrupted by Kai, who confronts Milo and demands to know why he is hiding the dragon. As Milo looks on nervously, Kai gives him a sharp, determined warning not to get in the way. Milo looks anxious as he argues that once the dragon is delivered to her, they will no longer be useful and will be abandoned. Kai, unmoved by Milo's fear, looms over him with a threatening presence, warning him that if he dares to betray them again, he will not take it lightly. The focus shifts away from the tension between Kai and Milo to Ciel. He stands solitary amidst the towering trees, his long, scaly tail curling behind him on the forest floor. As the distant cries of birds fill the air, Ciel gazes ahead with a somber and longing expression. Suddenly, a massive bird swoops from the sky, snatching Ciel up in its talons. Before he can even react, the bird slams him hard against the earth, leaving him stunned and pinned beneath its shadow. Noah looms over Ciel, demanding to know why he is running. Noah explains that their lady is eager to meet him, but Ciel responds with indifference. As Noah pins him down and notes that Ciel is a dragon, Ciel shouts back, refusing to go see any dragon. Ciel struggles under Noah's weight, irritably demanding that they get off him, however. Noah's expression softens as they gently rub Ciel's cheek, remarking that he has her eyes and noting with sadness how badly injured the young dragon is. Ciel desperately struggles under Noah's weight, shouting for them to stop. As the pressure increases, Ciel winces in agony, crying out that it hurts. Ciel is barely able to finish his cry of pain when the tiger suddenly intervenes. Startled by the predator's presence, Noah quickly swoops back, breaking the hold on the young dragon. With a thunderous roar, the tiger pounces into the scene, shielding Ciel from Noah's grasp and asserting its dominance. The tiger lets out a ferocious roar, declaring that Ciel belongs to her. Noah counters with a sharp, intense gaze, insisting that the dragon is her prey. As the two predators glare at each other in a tense standoff, another bird flies in, calling out to Noah as sister. Realizing they are outmatched by the tiger's strength, the birds suggest retreating for the time being. However, the urgency of the approaching full moon creates a dilemma, as they fear they won't make it back in time. Ciel looks on with a concerned expression, caught in the middle of their standoff. The birds finally retreat, soaring away into the sky. As the tension dissipates, the tiger stops her growling, and Ciel leans in close, hugging her warmly as they both relax on the forest floor. The forest returns to a peaceful silence as the tiger lies resting on the grass. CL leans in close, cuddling affectionately against her. In the warmth of this moment, the tiger shifts her form, returning to her human appearance as they remain side by side. Now in her human form, the tiger gazes softly at CL. They lean in close to one another, sharing a quiet, intimate moment. Eventually, they lie down together on the forest floor, embracing each other in a peaceful hug. So, she whispers. CL is just beginning to ask how someone's managed to find them when an acquaintance cheerfully waves, greeting them with a casual sup. CL looks on in disbelief, wondering what the man is doing there. When CL questions if his arrival is even a big deal, the tiger emphatically declares that it is the biggest deal of all. Under the glow of a massive full moon, the tiger and CL, in his majestic CL form, share a quiet, intimate moment. Their bodies intertwine as they gaze at one another, signaling the beginning of a new chapter titled Dragon Amid the Winds. The story transitions to a scene in the forest, where Kai is seen struggling with a creature before ending up on the ground. The acquaintance looks on in bewilderment and asks the tiger if she truly isn't going to eat the thing. The tiger glares at him with an intense, sharp expression, sternly reminding him of what she had already stated. The tiger explains her strategic partnership with CL, describing how the dragon finds prey from the air and chases it toward her. Realizing the advantage, the acquaintance agrees that keeping CL alive is a smart move. He then looks up at the sky, wistfully wishing he could fly to make hunting and traveling easier. The tiger chuckles, jokingly suggesting that perhaps they could grow wings if they ate enough birds. The acquaintance looks on with a bright smile, and the two share a warm, intimate moment as they hold hands. The pleasant atmosphere vanishes in an instant as the tiger suddenly lashes out, whacking the acquaintance. As he lies on the ground in pain, complaining that they had a good vibe going, the tiger snarls at him to never touch her. When the bewildered man asks what he did to deserve such a blow, she simply and coldly replies that he did nothing at all. CL sits peacefully beside the tiger, admitting that he is hungry. As the starry night sky looms above, the acquaintance looks on in disbelief, questioning if CL has lost his ability to fly. The acquaintance dismisses CL's value now that he can no longer fly, which earns him a sharp retort from the boy. Frustrated, the man begins venting, blaming the tiger for the attacks he suffered from birds and wolves, and criticizing her for trusting a suspicious monkey. As the acquaintance mentions the name Hakare, CL steps in with a determined look, insisting that Hakare is not to blame for everything. The acquaintance introduces himself as Oga. Hakare is puzzled when CL suddenly snaps at her, questioning why she would share her name with someone he calls a joker. After a brief moment of silence, CL softens his tone and admits that it is actually fine. CL desperately asks for help to remove the rope binding him. Oga suggests biting it off, but CL fears he will only end up strangling himself, as Oga observes that the rope is tied too tight for them to easily undo. CL winces in pain. Oga then asks why he doesn't simply use his claws, at which moment the rope finally gives way and snaps. CL notices another rope tightly bound around his scaly tail and asks the tiger to remove this one as well. With a swift motion, the tiger's claws shred through the rope. As the binding snaps, CL looks up in surprise and relief, finally free from the restraints. With the ropes finally gone, CL suddenly lifts off the ground and floats into the night sky. The tiger and Oga watch in amazement, shocked to discover that he can indeed fly after all. CL drifts upward into the night air, his long scaly tail curling gracefully beneath him. He looks down at the tiger and Oga with a mischievous smile, leaving them staring up in utter disbelief. CL suddenly dives from the sky, wrapping his arms and scaly tail firmly around the tiger. As he tells her to grab on, the tiger looks on in surprise, while Oga shouts in shock at the sudden action. With a sudden burst of speed, CL takes flight, soaring high into the starry night sky, with the tiger clinging tightly to his body. Left behind in the clearing, Oga can only shout for them to wait as they disappear against the backdrop of the full moon. CL glides through the starry night, spinning gracefully as he carries the tiger. The wind flutters around them and the tiger gazes out at the vast sky, experiencing the thrill of flight, as CL's scaly tail holds her securely. High above the world, CL glides gracefully through the starry night, carrying the tiger on his back. Together, they soar over a vast expanse of mountains and clouds, bathed in the soft light of the full moon. The tiger rests her hands on CL's scales, feeling the rush of the wind. As she gazes thoughtfully, CL suddenly plunges downward in a steep, rapid dive, leaving the tiger startled by the sudden change in speed and direction. The descent accelerates as CL and the tiger plummet through the night sky. CL wraps his massive, scaly body around the tiger, shielding her as they dive headfirst toward the dark canopy of the forest. They land with a soft thud on the forest floor. CL, now back in his human form, looks up at the tiger with a playful smile and asks, "Felt good, didn't it, Hakare?" The tiger catches her breath, her face flushed from the excitement of the ride. As she recovers, CL calls out to her, addressing her as Hekadu. The scene shifts to a quiet forest illuminated by a brilliant full moon. Milo, wrapped in his hooded cloak, looks at his sister with concern, softly calling her name. Sierra, visibly worn out, leans into him, her breath coming in heavy, ragged gasps. Milo gazes at his sister with a heavy, concerned look, quietly telling her that it won't take long now. As the scene shifts, a close-up of a reptilian eye leads to a grand view of Ciel in his Ciel form, standing powerfully upon a mountain summit and overlooking the vast, starry night. Milo and his companion humble themselves before the majestic Ciel whom they address as Lady Shinsu. With a desperate and solemn plea, they beseech him to give them his blood. The scene shifts to a haunting image as the 15th chapter begins. Ciel is seen amidst a heap of bleached skulls, holding a large bird skull close to his face with a distant, enigmatic expression. Milo bows deeply, offering his apologies for being late. Ciel, in his imposing Ciel form, coldly remarks that he is indeed late. Milo quickly suggests they go hunting right away. Admitting that he is hungry, however, Ciel shifts back into his human form, his expression impatient as he declares that he wants to eat right now. Ciel looks at Milo with a mischievous smile and proposes a deal, offering his blood to heal Milo's leg. Milo, kneeling before him in distress, explains that without the use of his legs, he will be unable to hunt for his liege. Ciel simply finds the situation amusing, commenting on the pickle they've found themselves in. Milo desperately begs Ciel to provide blood for his sister. Sierra, however, Ciel remains indifferent, questioning why he should help when he receives nothing in return. Milo stands frozen, breathing heavily as he processes Ciel's indifference. Ciel glances back over his shoulder with a cold, piercing gaze, curtly replying that he understands. Milo presents a dead creature, Kokoron, as an offering in exchange for the healing of his leg. He bows low before Ciel, pleading for forgiveness and addressing him as Lady Shinsui, while Ciel looks on with a faint, enigmatic smile. Ciel looks at the offering with curiosity. As Milo holds up the Kokoron, he tells Ciel to open wide, blushing slightly as Ciel obeys and opens his mouth to receive the food. Milo gulps as Ciel provides the healing. He lets out a long sigh of relief, feeling his injury mend. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Milo thanks Ciel profusely, to which Ciel simply responds with a casual sure. Milo catches his breath, still shaken from the previous events. Ciel calmly instructs him to stretch out his leg. As Milo complies, Ciel's scaly tail swishes through the air and slams violently down on the limb, leaving Milo gasping in pain. Ciel bursts into laughter at Milo's shocked expression and pain. After a moment, he giggles and tells him he was just kidding. However, his playful mood vanishes as he looks down at Milo, coldly stating that without him, both Milo and Sierra would have died. Ciel gazes at them, with a mischievous smirk, further emphasizing their helplessness by calling them adorable little creatures. Milo looks up at the massive dragon, Neri, filled with anxiety and questioning if everything will be all right. He admits his deep worry that the tiger's instincts will lead her to eat Ciel. After confirming that the tiger is indeed female, Ellen smiles confidently, assuring Milo that she won't eat him. The tiger holds Ciel close, treating him as if he were her own offspring. However, a cold realization follows that she is in the way. Later, Ellen warns Ciel that it is dangerous for him to move in the open because many creatures would hunt a dragon. Despite the warning, Ciel remains cheerful, insisting that he has the two of them to protect him. Ellen looks on with determination, promising that they will, of course, defend Ciel with their lives. Milo shares this solemn resolve, his expression grave as he looks toward the young dragon. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts as a mysterious liquid splashes onto the ground. A Noah named Misumi dives down and catches a fish. Elin praises Misumi's hunting skills, but the bird modestly credits Elin's teaching. Elin jokingly declares that she won't let her kid brother surpass her. As she and Milo stand together, voices call out to Misumi and Kokoron. Kokoron excitedly calls out to his brother and shows off a grim discovery. Lying on the ground is a dead dragon whelp. As they gather around, Kokoron describes the mythical value of the creature, noting that dragon blood can heal any wound and eating its heart grants immortality. He speculates that the whelp was already weak and simply fell from its nest. Kokoron and Ellen exchange worried looks as they discuss rumors of eagles dying after consuming dragon flesh. However, the eagles are unfazed by the risk, greedily feasting on the dead whelp and declaring that the meat tastes superb. Kokoron notices one of his companions in distress and rushes to help, asking, "What is wrong?" The companion, groaning in pain, discovers strange bruises appearing on their skin. Overwhelmed by a sudden surge of agony, they admit to Kokoron that they are hurting all over, suggesting that the warnings about eating dragon meat were true. Kokoron urgently asks the pained companion if they ate the dragon meat, while others call out in worry. As the group descends into panic, Ciel floats calmly in the air, looking down at them and calling them dum-dums for their ignorance. Floating before the full moon, Ciel explains the cruel truth. Dragon venom activates and kills the host during a full moon. The companions are in denial, claiming they ate the meat long ago. but their bodies betray them as they break into violent coughing fits. When one desperately asks if there is any way to be saved, CL admits there is, but callously declares that he has no obligation to help them. CL reveals his true, massive dragon form, looming over the group with a menacing presence as he coldly mentions that he is running on an empty stomach. Overwhelmed by guilt and blaming himself for the tragedy, Kokoran comforts his companions before bowing low before the dragon. In a desperate act of sacrifice, Kokoran pleads with CL to eat him and spare the lives of the others. CL coldly agrees, and in a sudden, violent motion, he snaps his massive jaws shut, swallowing one of the companions whole. As the victim screams for their brother Kokoran, and the remaining group can only watch in despair as their comrade is consumed. The sickening sound of crunching bone echoes as CL swallows his prey. Kokoran and the remaining companion can only watch in absolute horror, paralyzed by the brutality of the act. CL then transforms back into his human form, casually licking his lips as he looks at the survivors, wondering what should happen next. CL looks at the trembling survivors with a playful yet menacing smile. He declares that from this moment on, they belong to him, adding a mocking pleasure to Micha as he asserts his dominance. Kokoran sinks into despair, questioning if there is any point in staying alive while being subjected to such humiliation. The Eagle Companion counters his pessimism, reminding him that CL gave her own blood to save them when they were suffering. However, Kokoran dismisses this act as a mere whim, claiming CL is simply toying with them. Losing patience, the Eagle Companion snaps, shouting at Kokoran to just fly away and never come back. The Eagle Companion flies off, leaving Kokoran alone in his misery. As he looks up at the towering presence of the dragon, CL speaks with a heavy cryptic tone, revealing a dark bond between them, that both of them are cursed. Shifting to a bonus comic titled The Pair Without Tails, the scene opens on a snowy winter night beside a glowing Christmas tree. Cell, bundled up in a beanie, shivers and complains loudly about the freezing weather, regretting that he forgot his gloves. Seeing him struggle, Tiger gently takes his hand in hers to provide warmth, teasingly reminding him of the saying, "Warm hands, cold heart." In a modern school setting, CL greets Kokoran and Tiger. Kokoran informs CL that their mother wants to see him, but CL flatly refuses, claiming she creeps him out with her endless stream of texts. As CL rants about her behavior and his plans to take a bath and eat ice cream, Tiger calmly observes that such obsession is actually love. CL suggests that Tiger and Kokoran sleep side by side, claiming he wouldn't want to separate siblings. Tiger quickly rejects the idea, arguing that Kokoran is too big and that there is no reason for them to share a bed. Despite her protest, the situation resolves with CL and Tiger sharing a bed, leaving Kokoran to sleep by himself, much to his relief. CL sits apart from the bed, focused on his phone, until Tiger calls out to him. Surprised, he is suddenly pulled into her embrace. As she asks if he's having trouble sleeping, CL defensively insists that he is not a little kid anymore. The scene shifts back to the wild, where the tiger is seen playfully wrestling with Seal in his massive seal form. The tiger scratches at Seal's scales before tumbling backward and falling off. CL looks at the damage and asks if the tiger's claw caused it. The tiger is shocked to realize that something has actually fallen off. CL wonders aloud if there is any way to restore the lost piece. Now in her human form, the tiger looks down with a sorrowful expression, admitting that she wasn't careful and her claws scraped it away. CL reassures the tiger, explaining that the scales she accidentally scraped off were merely old pieces that were already ready to fall. Relieved, the tiger looks at the scale in her hand, contemplating this new discovery about CL's nature. The tiger looks on with a gentle, thoughtful expression, reflecting on the fact that there is still so much more for her to discover about CL. The tiger gazes at the fallen scale in her hand, marveling at how pretty it is. She gently touches CL's scales, feeling a deeper connection as CL watches her quietly. As the tiger gently checks on him and asks if it hurts, Scale Winson warns her not to touch a specific spot, admitting that it is still very tender. After their quiet exchange, Scale shifts back into his human form, sitting thoughtfully in the forest. CL stands in his human form, his long scaly tail curling on the ground behind him. The tiger watches him with a quiet, contemplative gaze. Looking down at his tail, CL hums to himself, realizing that something is not quite right and decides that this situation won't do. CL rides on the tiger's back as they delve deeper into a dark, expansive cavern. The tiger notes the immense depth of the place, warning CL that he would likely never find his way out if he had come alone. After stopping, CL encounters a group of bats and asks them if they know anything about a creature with an exceptionally long lifespan that is said to live within the cavern. As they venture further into the depths, CL looks around and wonders why there are holes everywhere. Feeling the need for a break, he suggests they take a rest. The two settle down together, and CL warmly hugs the tiger, who responds with a contented purr. The quiet atmosphere is broken by a strange wheezing sound. Sensing a presence, The tiger immediately lets out a sharp hiss and shifts into a protective stance, shielding CL. As they look ahead, they are confronted by the wrinkled, eerie face of a mysterious creature, watching them from the shadows. The tiger lets out a menacing growl, standing guard as a colossal snake looms over them. CL looks up at the massive beast and asks if it is the long-lived creature rumored to inhabit the cavern. When the creature offers no response, CL looks on in confusion, wondering if he has mistaken the beast for someone else. CL earnestly asks the Tali for help, explaining that they are searching for a way to extend their lifespans. Despite his pleas, the creature remains silent for a long time, prompting the tiger to warn CL to keep his distance. Finally, the ancient beast speaks, calling the situation truly shocking and remarking on how slow it all is. Tali continues to speak, mockingly claiming that the tiger only eats grass, and warning CL to be careful not to be eaten. CL, sitting atop the tiger, looks on with a neutral expression, simply noting the comment. As Tali adds that it also consumes fruits, CL bluntly dismisses the point, keeping the focus on their conversation. The giant turtle speaks with gravity, claiming that extending a lifespan is a feat as difficult as overturning the world. As the creature dismissively tells them to forget it if they don't understand, CL glares back, firmly stating that the turtle has not yet answered what he actually asked. CL looks around the cavern and asks Adin if this place serves as a sleeping spot for the creatures. Adin acknowledges him and explains that it is indeed a sanctuary, a place where the creatures can safely close their eyes and entrust their lives in peace. Adin suddenly asks CL if he intends to pair with the tiger. CL is taken aback, shouting in confusion and questioning how such a thing could be possible given that they belong to different races. As the tiger remains silent, CL looks on with a serious expression, questioning the true meaning and purpose of extending her lifespan. CL bluntly admits that he doesn't know the answer to Aiden's question, leaving the tiger stunned. Adin mocks him, pointing out that CL doesn't even realize what he doesn't understand. However, CL remains firm, arguing that while he may not have all the answers yet, his actions are not meaningless, and he challenges Adin by suggesting that the old creature also acts without knowing everything. Adin observes that CL's answers align, leaving the boy confused. With a sudden shrink in size, the ancient creature tells them to follow him as he begins to lead the way. CL and the tiger follow the now shrunken Adin deeper into the cavern. CL, feeling impatient and yawning, rushes ahead and asks Adin if he can go any faster, prompting a soft response from the tiger. However, CL suddenly stops, his expression shifting as he notices something unexpected. CL and the tiger stop in their tracks as they discover a colossal skeleton lying in the cavern. Staring at the remains, CL wonders why such a creature is here, questioning if this is yet another corpse in the sanctuary. CL looks on in confusion, questioning why the corpses of a wolf and a dragon are located here. Adin calmly identifies the wolf's remains, his expression turning solemn as he begins to share a tale from long ago about an old wolf and a gentle dragon who once walked together. Adin recounts a memory from the past where a gentle CL arrived in a hurry, pleading for a way to make an old wolf live longer. As the exhausted old wolf settles down to rest, it remarks that the quietness of the cavern is not bad at all. CL pleads with Adin, begging for any knowledge that could save the old wolf. As the weary old wolf rests, Adin looks at the seas with curiosity, questioning why a creature as powerful as a seal would be so desperate to prolong the life of an old wolf. CL, in his CL form, is overwhelmed by grief. He doesn't understand why he must lose her, recalling how they spent years together only for her to grow old in what felt like a blink of an eye. As he looks down at the frail old wolf, he admits his helplessness, feeling as though he is going crazy watching her lose the ability to move forward. The old wolf observes that CL is always thinking about things that are unattainable, turning away from the reality of the here and now. As they share a quiet moment together, the old wolf asks CL if he dislikes seeing her looking the way she does now. CL gently takes the old wolf's wrinkled hand in his own. He pulls her into a warm, tight embrace, telling her that no matter how she looks, he loves her so much. But the inevitable happens, and the old wolf finally closes her eyes for the last time. Overwhelmed by loss, CL lets out a piercing scream of agony that shakes the very mountains, lamenting that their time together ended far too quickly. Adin stands silently, witnessing the CL's profound grief. CL looks up at Adin and asks if they can stay there. After a brief moment of thought, Adin softly agrees. As they settle into the quiet landscape, blooming lotus flowers surround them, and a single flower gently rests upon Aiden's head, bringing a moment of fragile peace to CL's heartbreak. Time passes as CL spends his days in the company of Adin, though the sight of a weathered skull reminds him of the inevitable nature of death. While pausing to drink from a serene stream, the tranquility is shattered. A leopard suddenly emerges from the foliage, letting out a fierce roar as it confronts the CL. CL is left battered and bleeding, his body marked by deep, ripped wounds. As he limps past, Adin looks on with concern, asking if he was attacked by a wild beast. CL collapses onto the ground, completely spent. In a moment of vulnerability, he admits that he couldn't have survived alone. Adin looks at him with a knowing smile and remarks that the old wolf would have certainly made fun of him. CL lets out a small laugh, as he can completely imagine her doing so. Night falls over the land, and the group shares a quiet moment of rest. Amidst the stillness, the tiger asks why such lengths were gone to for a wolf. CL looks at her with a serious expression, replying that it is not her turn to say such a thing. As they settle in for the night, a quiet reflection on the nature of dragons unfolds. Adin explains that because of their immense lifespans, dragons often find interest in other living beings beyond mere reproduction. He muses that the closer two beings become, the harder it is to part ways, and softly tells the tiger that she is just the same. Adin observes the tiger and tells her that she is fascinated by CL. Confused by these stirring emotions, the tiger asks if this is a bad thing, though Adin admits that he doesn't fully understand it either. Their thoughts then turn to the old wolf, recalling how truly happy she looked. CL leans against the tiger, his expression clouded with frustration. As the small birds laugh in the background, CL declares that he didn't want to see it all, insisting that they have no relation to those others and are fundamentally different. But he is quickly countered if he truly felt that way. He wouldn't be so bothered by it. The tiger huffs, finding CL's emotional outburst annoying as she holds him close. As the tension fades, the conversation shifts toward the west. Adin explains that crossing great rivers and mountains leads to the highlands, a land where those with long lifespans live and wander as they please, revealing that he once lived there himself before becoming a traveler. CL and the tiger settle down to rest, finding a brief moment of peace in each other's company. As Adin watches over them with a gentle smile, he notes that despite the pause, CL's heart still longs to move forward. He softly reminds the young dragon to cherish these fleeting moments of tranquility. As they walk together, the tiger notices something strange and asks CL what is wrong. Confused, CL doesn't understand until she points out that his tail is wrapping around her. CL, seemingly unaware of his subconscious action, simply admits that he doesn't know why. Despite his initial confusion, CL decides to keep his tail wrapped around the tiger, firmly stating his desire to do so. With a look of intense determination, he vows to push through anything that might get in his way, leaving the tiger to wonder about the strength of his feelings. The tiger looks at CL and softly admits that his resolve to stay by her side makes her feel relieved. She notices his tail curled firmly around her waist and asks if there is a specific meaning behind this habit. CL explains that this is simply how dragons show their feelings, though he seems just as curious about why he feels this way. A herd of gazelles stands alert before suddenly dashing away in a panic. A leopard who had been stalking them is left behind, flinching in surprise as its prey escapes. In stark contrast to the leopard's failure, the tiger effortlessly secures its prey, biting down firmly. From the cover of the tall grass, the leopard watches the tiger's success with a look of astonishment. On a journey through an unknown land, two shadows rush across the heath. The tiger and the leopard move forward together, marking the start of a new chapter. With a heavy weight to move forward, the tiger's eyes narrow with predatory intent as she crouches low in the undergrowth. Without warning, she lunges forward, slamming her paw into the leopard with a powerful blow and sinking her teeth deep into its flesh. The leopard shouts in confusion and anger, questioning the tiger's actions and pleading that it is still just a kid. The tiger coldly dismisses this, asking so what, and stating that the leopard's growth has nothing to do with her. Determined, the leopard insists that it needs to eat more and exercise properly to become strong, while the tiger's expression remains tense. The rival tiger sits calmly in the forest, looking toward the leopard. He asks if the young feline truly desires to become strong. The leopard gazes up at him with admiration, admitting that the rival tiger is indeed very strong. The leopard looks up at the rival tiger with wide-eyed admiration, commenting on how cool and muscular he is. The rival tiger smiles confidently, noting that he has already been alive for 4 years. Filled with determination, the leopard declares that when it grows up, it wants to become a cool beast just like him. The rival tiger looks on with a satisfied smile before offering to share his meal. "You want to get stronger, right?" he asks. "All right, I'll share some of my prey with you." Surprised and excited, the leopard agrees, however. As the leopard begins to eat, the rival tiger remarks that for a tiger, the leopard is quite scrawny. The leopard immediately retorts, "I'm not a tiger." Muku proudly introduces himself as a cheetah. In return, the other man reveals his name is Oga. Filled with admiration, Muku begs Oga to show him the way to gain strength, leaving Oga with a resigned sigh as he realizes he has no choice but to help. Oga begins him that climbing trees is the best way to strengthen his arms. Muku tries his best but whines in frustration. Oga then suggests that rock climbing also works, but Muku quickly slides down the rock face, ending in a clumsy crash. Muku fights against gravity, easily slipping as he desperately clings to the stone. With a final effort, he reaches the summit, exhausted and panting. But there is no rest, for the young cheetah. Oga watches him coldly and commands him to do it all over again. Cell leans his back against a massive tree, his hands scuffed and dirty from his efforts. He looks forward, once a small, determined smile, clenching his fists as if reflecting on his own progress. Nearby, the tiger lies in the grass, fast asleep in the quiet of the forest. In the peaceful silence of the night, Oga and Muku find comfort in each other. The small cheetah nuzzles affectionately against the tiger, their bond deepening through these quiet moments of warmth and security. The scene shifts to a wide, grassy plain under the night sky, where a pack of hyenas is gathered. Muku hides in the tall grass, his eyes filled with intensity. With a fierce snarl, he angrily accuses the hyenas of stealing their prey and attacking his mother. Unfazed, one of the hyenas looks down on him, mockingly asking what the little one is doing. The leer continue to taunt Muku, asserting that prey only belongs to those strong enough to keep it. Even as Muku fiercely declares his intent to get revenge, the leer remain unfazed, cruelly reminding him that his mother overestimated her strength when she faced them. The liar coldly explains those who lose their mother's protection cannot survive in this world, flashing back to the moment they ruthlessly attacked Muku's siblings. They mock Muku, claiming he was the only one who managed to escape their grasp by abandoning his parents and siblings to run away on his own. Devastated, Muku tries to deny the cruel accusation. The liar mockingly tells Muku that he was indeed very strong, leaving the young cub confused. However, that strength meant nothing when the liar suddenly appeared, bringing terror and destruction to his family. The memory flashes back to the chaos of the attack. Muku's mother lets out a thunderous roar, startling the leer, before lunging forward with fierce intensity to defend her child. Muku calls out to the tiger as the large feline steps forward with a menacing glare. The tiger warns the liar that they will regret it if they dare touch her friend. Confused, the liar speculate whether the tiger is a lion or a female, but the tiger quickly silences them with a thunderous roar, daring them to bring on the fight. The leer leader coldly declares that they do not engage in pointless fights and orders the pack to leave. As the leer disappear into the night, Muku watches them go, completely confused by their sudden change in attitude. Kokoran gently pats Muku's head, praising his bravery for facing the liar. Muku, still burdened by his past, denies being brave. As they sit together in the quiet grasslands, Kokoran opens up to the tiger, admitting that he has always regretted leaving his own family behind to escape on his own, calling himself a coward. Kokoran asks Muku whose forgiveness he is seeking, and Muku softly admits it is the family members who were devoured. Kokoran gently counters this guilt, telling him that if he hadn't escaped, his entire family lineage would have been completely destroyed. He suggests that his family might even be thankful that he survived, urging Muku to live his life fully for their sake. As they speak, a poignant image of a leopard mother and her cubs appears, representing the family Muku lost and the legacy he now carries. Muku is visibly touched by Kokuran's encouragement. With a determined expression and clenched fists, he declares his resolve to live well for everyone's sake, finally finding the strength to move forward from his grief. Driven by his new resolve, Muku turns to Kokoran with an enthusiastic request, asking him to teach him how to hunt. He excitedly imagines trapping prey and delivering a final blow alongside a friend, eager to experience hunting as a group. However, Kokoran remains hesitant and eventually dampens Muku's excitement by revealing that he doesn't intend to stay in the grasslands for much longer. Muku asks with a hint of sadness if Kokoran is really leaving. Kokoran confirms it, stating that he still has things he wants to achieve. As he departs, a simple bye echoes through the grasslands, leaving Muku and the tiger behind in a quiet, reflective moment. The tiger looks at Muku and warns him that even if he chooses to come along, she will not take care of him, as she has her own matters to attend to in this direction. Muku, seeing no other option, decides to follow her anyway. With a shared resolve, the two of them begin a new journey together. The tiger asks Neri if flying ever becomes tiring. Neri explains that while limbs are used for walking, the tail is essential for flight, and carrying a passenger adds to the exhaustion. With a gentle release, Neri lets the tiger go. The tiger splashes into the water with a loud plop, gasping for air as she surfaces. Neri tells her to swim on her own, admitting that she is far too heavy to carry. Indignant, the tiger transforms into her animal form and growls, complaining about being thrown so suddenly. Neri simply tells her not to fall behind as he moves forward through the water. Ciel glides effortlessly across the water, glancing back at the tiger swimming below. When the tiger asks what is on his mind, Ciel dismisses it, but kindly tells her to let him know if she gets tired. He expresses his hope that they can reach the shore before darkness falls, and the tiger agrees. The tiger plunges into the water with a powerful splash. Seal immediately dives in after her, shouting Hakure, as he shifts into his CL form to keep pace. Just as they dive, a colossal aquatic monster erupts from the depths. Without a moment's hesitation, the tiger springs into action, leaping through the air to strike the massive creature. The massive aquatic predator looms over them with its jaws wide open. CL lets out a powerful roar and strikes the beast, while the tiger leaps in to join the assault, together fighting to overcome the creature. The battle intensifies as Kian pulls and rolls through the water, struggling against the tiger's relentless assault. The massive predator lets out a gurgle as the fight continues in the depths. CL strikes with precision, piercing deep into Kian's flesh. As the massive creature lets out a cry of pain, the tiger grabs hold of CL, working together to bring down the aquatic predator. The piercing blow connects with a violent rip, tearing through Kian's flesh. As CL pulls away from the strike, the Kian lets out a pained roar before collapsing, gasping in defeat. Kian gasps in pain, struggling to breathe after the devastating blow. As CL's tail splashes in the water, Kian calls out to Hakure. Hakure coughs violently, trying to clear the water from her lungs. Looking at her with a heavy gaze, Kian speaks, telling her to listen. Kian holds Hakure firmly and addresses CL. He tells CL to leave the tiger to him, arguing that she is only hindering CL's ability to fly. When CL asks if he is sure, Kian points out the long distance to the shore and CL's injuries, warning that if they stay together, they will both eventually fall and become his prey. CL refuses to leave Hakure behind, telling her to ignore Kin's offer. Without hesitation, he scoops her up and takes flight, soaring away from the predator and heading toward the safety of the shore. CL breathes heavily, his body strained from the fierce battle and the effort of the flight. As he carries Hakure away from the water, she reaches out and gently touches his scales, a silent gesture of gratitude and connection as they escape together. CL flies swiftly through the air, putting distance between himself and the water. On the shore, Kian watches them disappear into the distance with a click of his tongue. Finally, CL's claws grip the earth as he safely lands on the rocky ground. Once they touch down on the rocky terrain, CL reverts to his human form, gasping for air with blood trickling from his mouth. The tiger, seeing his battered state, asks with worry if he is okay. Exhausted and dazed, CL can barely speak, his body trembling from the toll of the battle. Hakure tells CL to lift his leg so she can treat his injuries. As she begins to lick the wound to speed up the healing process, CL winces and shouts for her to stop. Despite her insistence for him to be patient, CL complains that he was taught not to lick wounds and remarks that her tongue is too rough. Exhausted and wounded, CL leans his head against Hakure. She looks down at him with a soft, concerned expression, her gaze filled with tenderness as they share a quiet moment of bonding on the shore. CL suddenly bites Hakure, making her wince in pain. As they lean against the rocks, CL admits that he is still hurting, while Hakure lets out a soft sigh, the two of them sharing a moment of raw, pained vulnerability. Hakure carefully tends to CL's injuries, informing him that she has stopped the bleeding, but warns him not to move too much. Noticing CL's distant expression, she asks what is wrong. CL looks away, feeling guilty and murmuring that he is only bothering her. However, he then leans in close to her, softly asking if his condition is worrying her now. CL pulls Hakure into a gentle embrace, leaning his head against hers in a moment of rare vulnerability. As they sit together on the rocky shore, CL softly touches her ear and asks if she knows why so many seek to hunt him down. He looks out toward the horizon, admitting that although he is a target for many, they are unable to touch him. CL looks at Hakure with a gentle smile, explaining that the reason hunters cannot reach him is simply because she is by his side. Confused, Hakure questions how she could be the reason. CL teases her, saying that if she is truly worried about him, she should focus on getting well soon, as she currently lacks the strength to protect him. Hakure notices CL's tail, but he dismisses it as nothing gesture. CL transforms into his massive CL form, encircling Hakure with his body to shield her. Looking at her with kindness, he softly tells her to have a rest. CL stays in his massive form, enveloping Hakure in a warm, protective embrace as she rests. As he looks upon his injuries, he thinks to himself that the wounds he received while protecting her mean nothing at all. Hakure is seen with childlike wonder, pointing out various creatures: a rabbit, a pig, a bird, and a deer. This light-hearted montage ends with a tender moment as CL in his massive form playfully nips at her, making her laugh. CL lies on the ground, staring blankly as he recalls the odd images from before. He mutters to himself about a flying deer, concluding that it must have been a dream. He leans comfortably against Hakure, who lets out a deep, vibrating purr. However, Hakure glances back at him with a puzzled expression, wondering what he is talking about. Hakure softly apologizes as she looks at CL. Confused by the interaction, CL reflects on their current state, noting that they haven't eaten in a while. Looking out over the vast landscape, he decides he needs to find something to eat before Hakare's hunger leads her to eat him instead. Determined to find food for himself and Hakare, Ciel takes flight. Soaring high above the lush forest, his keen eyes scan the ground until he spots a herd of Cian. Without hesitation, he dives steeply from the sky, descending rapidly toward his prey. With a powerful whoosh, Ciel dives from the clouds, descending like a bolt of lightning. Below him, the Cian flinch in sudden alarm, unaware that their predator is already upon them. With a sudden swoop, Ciel crashes into the forest, sending the Cian leaping away in terror. He comes to a halt, his sharp claws gripping the soil and his long, spiky tail sweeping behind him. In the sudden silence, the predator stares ahead, focused and ready for the hunt. Ciel spots a stream teeming with fish. With a sudden, precise strike, he plunges his head into the water to snatch a meal, his predatory instincts fully awakened as he secures his hunt. Ciel's hunt takes a dangerous turn. As he plunges into the stream, Kian bursts from the depths with a thunderous splash, its massive jaws wide open to snap up the unsuspecting Ciel. Ciel manages to dodge the massive jaws of Kian, leaping high out of the water with a splash. He mocks the creature's failure and warns of the hidden dangers lurking beneath the surface. On the shore, the tiger sits calmly, observing the commotion from the rocks under the bright sun. On the rocky shore, the tiger is seen calmly grooming itself. Ciel approaches and curiously asks if the tiger is licking a wound. Startled by the question, the tiger quickly denies it, insisting that it was merely combing its fur. Ciel accepts the answer without further question. Ciel points out a group of large centipedes and larvae crawling on the ground. The tiger looks at them with curiosity, wondering what they are. Ciel advises her that she needs to crush their heads so they won't bite her. Taking the advice, the tiger steps down hard on a centipede, crushing it with a sharp crack. Ciel explains that the insects are poisonous, continuing his lesson on how to handle them. He then offers some to the tiger, who asks if they are good before eating them with a loud crunch. The tiger chews on the insects, noting their peculiar taste, to which Ciel replies that it is better than nothing. Ciel recalls the advice given by Tali the snake, who taught him to eat insects when prey is scarce since they are easy to find under stones and trees. However, Tali had added a specific condition to let any small snakes go. Hearing this, the tiger remarks on how egoistic that is. As the sun begins to set over the horizon, Ciel tells the tiger that he intends to go hunting again. However, the tiger firmly refuses, reminding him that he cannot hunt at the moment. Driven by the memory of the crocodile, Ciel suddenly smiles mischievously and claims to have a better idea, leaving the tiger wondering what he is planning. Unbeknownst to the tiger, a crocodile looms silently beneath the surface of the water, its eyes fixed on her. The tiger, completely unaware of the danger, continues to groom herself and lean down to take a drink from the shore. With a fierce growl, the tiger leaps with explosive force, slamming into the Neri-2 just as it emerges from the water. The impact sends the predator crashing back onto the shore. As the Neri-2 writhes in pain, the tiger looks down coldly, mocking it by asking if it can even run with such a severe wound. With a thunderous thud and a sharp crack, the tiger crushes Neri-2 into the earth, completely dominating the Neri-2. The tiger looks on with a cold, focused gaze as she stands over the fallen creature. Nearby, Ciel looks up and warns her to be careful of the sky, suggesting that the danger may not be over yet. With a decisive and powerful movement, the tiger sinks its teeth deep into Neri-2's throat. A sickening chomp echoes through the air as the Neri-2 lets out a final guttural cry before falling silent. High above, birds continue to circle, a lingering reminder of the vigilance Ciel urged. With Neri-2 defeated, Ciel lets out a sigh of relief, noting that they won't have to worry about food for a few days. As they rest, the tiger reflects on the brutal rule of the wild: the strong devour the weak. Ciel asks the tiger what she would have done if the Neri-2 had eaten him, eventually leaning into her and jokingly declaring a draw since she had bitten him too. The roles shift as Ciel decides it is time to focus on strength. He pushes the tiger into a rigorous training session, forcing her to scale steep rock faces, while the tiger eventually collapses in exhaustion. Complaining that she is tired and thirsty, Ciel remains energetic, urging her to climb just a little bit more. Ciel looks at the exhausted tiger with a stern expression, reminding her that she cannot afford to be a spoiled, lazy kitten once her wounds have healed. He warns her that his care isn't permanent, and in a firm attempt to motivate her, threatens to simply leave her behind. The wind howls across the desolate landscape as Ciel and the tiger pause. Noticing the drop in temperature, the tiger remarks that it is getting cold again, a feeling Ciel admits he dislikes. In a sudden moment of affection, Ciel hugs the tiger in her human form, promising to keep her warm, but the tiger simply brushes him off, telling him it is still too early. Ciel leans comfortably against the tiger, teasingly reminding her of her duties, to which she responds with a knowing smile. As they gaze out over the vast, rugged landscape, they reflect on the turtle's advice: noting that two more mountains still stand in their way. With a renewed sense of urgency, they set off once more, CL encouraging them to push just a little bit further. Suddenly, a massive bird swoops down from the sky with a loud whoosh, startling CL and the tiger. Both look on in shock as the creature descends rapidly toward them. As Noah swoops down with a sudden whoosh, CL looks on in surprise. The tiger immediately reacts, growling fiercely to protect the boy. Noah shouts for CL to get down, swooping in close and catching him completely off guard. Noah wraps their arms around CL in a warm embrace, smiling softly as they whisper that they have finally met. Overwhelmed by the sudden closeness, CL flinches in surprise. CL suddenly manifests his CL form, letting out a deafening roar that shakes the surroundings. He wraps his long, scaly tail around the tiger, who looks on with a startled and bewildered expression. CL laughs, amusedly questioning if the sound he is making is just a snake's hiss. He then takes a deep breath, tilting his head back to release a powerful and thunderous roar that echoes through the air. CL lets out a massive earth-shaking roar, his mouth wide open in a display of raw power. The sheer volume of the sound catches the tiger and the birds off guard, leaving them stunned by the intensity of the seal's voice. Noah looks down at CL with a knowing smile, acknowledging that his roar is truly that of a dragon. She tells the child that she can teach him many things and asks him to follow her. CL stares up at her outstretched hand, appearing uncertain about the proposal. The tiger lets out a fierce roar, standing as a protective shield for CL. As Noah calmly places her hand on the tiger's fur to soothe it, CL watches with a bewildered gaze, still unsure of how to respond to her offer. CL shouts his refusal, declaring that he won't go anywhere with Noah, and will instead stay with the tigress. He expresses his distrust, accusing Noah of intending to eat him. Noah is surprised by the accusation, calmly telling CL that she would never do such a thing to him and that he has misunderstood her. She simply wants to be friends. Noah observes the bond between the two, remarking that the tigress has completely subdued CL. CL immediately reacts with indignation, shouting that she is wrong and that he chooses to be with the tiger of his own free will. Looking at them from a distance, Noah calmly notes that this is simply a dragon's instinct, leaving CL confused and questioning the meaning of her words. Noah explains the nature of dragon instincts, revealing that strong females are more attractive to males because of their ability to protect them. While she notes this is a dragon trait, she adds that other species may share similar tendencies. CL listens in silence, glancing at the tiger, and wondering if the same applies to their relationship. Noah continues her explanation, revealing that the way CL smells triggers a maternal instinct in females. She describes male seals as feeble, pointing out CL's small frame, weak jaws, and clawless tail. However, she explains that this very fragility is a survival mechanism, as it inspires a strong desire in others to protect them. A massive snake suddenly coils around the tiger, trapping CL on its back. As the snake questions CL's survival, Noah continues her lesson, pointing out that CL currently sees the tigress as a strong and attractive female. She then poses a dark question, wondering what would happen if she were to kill the tiger right now. Tally smiles with a predatory confidence, finishing her chilling thought. She declares that if the tiger were gone, CL's heart would become hers. CL falls into deep thought, trying to process the revelation about his own nature. He questions why the tigress has never eaten him, and why the idea of leaving her never even occurred to him. As the image of a powerful dragon mirrors his internal realization, CL finally understands the instinctive pull he feels toward the tiger as his strong protector. Having come to a conclusion about the nature of his bond, CL looks at the tiger and declares that he no longer needs her, now that he knows the truth. The tigress, appearing in her human form, is struck with shock and anguish, desperately asking him why he would say such a thing. CL ascends as a majestic CL, his presence overwhelming and cold. Below him, the tiger stares up in shock, her heart breaking as she realizes the depth of the rift CL has just created between them. CL leaps high into the sky, turning his back on the tigress and leaving her behind. The tiger stands frozen in the grassy field, her expression one of utter shock and despair as she watches him disappear. Unable to find any words to stop him, the tiger's stunned silence vanishes, replaced by a searing rage. With a ferocious roar, she shifts back into her powerful beast form and lunges forward, chasing after CL across the rugged terrain. The scene opens with a wide, silent view of the jagged mountain peaks under a cloudy sky. The tiger is shown in her human form, wearing a gentle and mysterious smile. In contrast, CL looks on with a solemn and distant expression, the tension between them lingering in the quiet air. In a desolate area, several dead birds lie on the ground. Neri tells CL that he can eat whatever he wants, wondering aloud if he isn't hungry or if the food simply isn't to his liking. CL stays silent, staring ahead, while Neri looks at him with a gentle, questioning gaze. Neri reaches into the tall grass, her expression thoughtful as she picks through the blades. She carefully gathers and weaves the grass together into a small bundled object. With a bright, hopeful smile, she holds it out towards CL, calling out, "Here," while CL sits nearby, observing her actions in silence. Neri enthusiastically demonstrates a traditional dragon game, tossing the grass ball into the air and skillfully keeping it aloft with her tail. She explains to CL that baby dragons use these balls to practice their agility and hunting instincts, stressing that the ball should never touch the ground. CL watches quietly as Neri plays, until the ball eventually drops and hits the ground with a soft thud. Following the demonstration with the grass ball, the conversation shifts to names. CL mentions the name Hekadu, but then firmly decides against it, telling Neri that there is no need for it. He declares that he will give her a better name, prompting Neri to respond that the idea sounds weird. A woman with a ponytail angrily confronts Kokuran about his attitude toward Shinsui-sama, questioning why he is so dismissive when she does so much for him. Ellen steps in, calmly reminding her that forcing someone is not a good habit. As Kokuran sits alone and silent, Ellen looks at him and thinks to herself that she has always been liked by other males, making this experience a first for her. CL looks on with cold determination, declaring that the tigress needs to be killed after all. Nearby, the eagle companion agrees, suggesting that if it is driven by dragon instinct, they should proceed. Elin tries to interject, complaining that CL isn't paying any attention to her, CL Saushaus, insisting that his resolve has nothing to do with her. Cecil sits coldly beside the tiger, his voice filled with resentment as he declares that to him, she is the monster who tried to eat him. The tiger looks at him with a pained expression, her hand resting on the ground as she struggles to respond. Only managing a feint, the tiger reacts with distress, firmly denying that she ever tried to eat him. She reveals that when she returned to the nest, Ciel was gone, and she had never stopped searching for him. She tells him how happy she was to learn he was still alive. But Ciel only looks at her with a cold, distant gaze, unmoved by her words. Neri recalls her own traumatic past, explaining that she was attacked the very moment she was born, though she eventually managed to escape. Hearing this, Ciel looks at her with a skeptical expression and asks how she could possibly know that he is her child. Neri is left momentarily speechless, unable to provide an immediate answer. Neri answers Ciel's question, explaining that she knew he was her child the moment she saw him, because he looks just like his father, sharing the same eyes and horns. Suddenly, she pulls Ciel into a tight hug, softly telling him that he must have been terrified. Neri holds Ciel close in the desolate, rocky terrain. She tells him that she is glad to finally understand the reason behind his distance. Looking at him with a soft expression, she admits that she has been incredibly lonely, as she hadn't seen anyone of her own kind for a long time. Neri smiles warmly at Ciel, telling him how happy she is to have finally met him. Looking out toward the horizon, she expresses her deep hope that dragons can once again soar into the boundless skies, while Ciel listens with a quiet, contemplative look. Neri gently takes Ciel's hand and pulls him into a warm, protective embrace. With a newfound sense of purpose, she tells him that together they can revive their clan, urging him to embark on this journey with her. Neri looks at Ciel with a mischievous smile and bluntly suggests that they mate to revive their clan. Ciel is left wide-eyed and speechless, completely overwhelmed by her sudden proposal. Ciel reacts with absolute shock and anger, shouting a firm refusal to Neri's proposal. He declares that he couldn't care less about the survival of the clan. Seeing his resolve, Neri leans in close to his face and whispers a manipulative question, asking if he really wants the tigress to get hurt. Ciel is left stunned and devastated by Neri's threat. Overwhelmed by emotion, he lets out a guttural scream before collapsing heavily onto the rocky ground. Neri looms over the collapsed Ciel, pinning him firmly against the rocky earth with her massive weight. With a dominant and menacing expression, she screams for him to obey her, leaving Ciel completely powerless and trapped beneath her. Neri tightens her grip on Ciel, her expression cold and commanding. As Ciel lets out a pained groan, she warns him with a sharp tone not to test her patience. Ciel, looking hesitant and overwhelmed, tells Neri that he just needs more time. He suggests that it would be better for them to get to know each other first before moving forward. Neri agrees with a smile, easing the tension as they sit together in the rocky landscape. As night falls over the mountains, a cold wind begins to blow. Neri, noticing, wraps her massive form around Ciel, offering to warm him up. But the heat is too much for the young boy, who quickly distances himself from her. Watching him retreat, Neri muses to herself that he simply cannot stand the heat. Ciel gazes into the distance with a sorrowful expression, admitting to himself that he feels utterly lonely without a certain presence by his side. As the moon hangs high in the dark sky, the tiger is seen sitting alone in the wilderness, both of them enveloped in a quiet, shared solitude as the chapter comes to an end. Milo reveals a grim truth about dragon poison. Confused, Ciel asks why predators would still hunt and eat dragons if they are poisonous. Milo explains that the poison is insidious, spreading throughout the body on the night of the full moon, and eventually accumulating in the heart of the infected. Kokoran explains that dragon blood doesn't kill immediately, which allows it to be used for a more sinister purpose. With a cold smile, he feeds a single drop of the blood to a winged individual, noting that it is enough to make them entirely obedient. Milo looks on as the winged person is subdued by the blood's influence. Kokoran solemnly remarks that some simply cannot live without dragons. Ciel, curious and concerned, asks if there is any way to neutralize the poison. The companion considers this for a moment before suggesting that if the heart is removed, everything will be fine. Neri and Noah prepare to head out for a hunt. Before leaving, Neri turns to Milo, entrusting the care of Ciel to him, which Milo silently accepts. As the dragon and the bird soar away into the distance, Ciel is left alone, sitting quietly by a tree, looking lonely. A powerful roar echoes through the wild, as Neri takes down a massive beast. Noah admires Neri's exceptional hunting skills, addressing her as Shinsui-sama. Confident and playful, Neri boasts that she can handle everything herself, teasing Noah that she wasn't much of a hunter back in the day, claiming all she could do was catch small fish. Neri looks back on her past, remembering a time of struggle and limitation. She recalls a defiant expression and the frustration of their inability to hunt large animals, as they were only capable of bringing back small fish. Neri pins Noah down, her expression intense and commanding. She tells Noah that she is trying to give her a reason to exist, and that Noah needs to become someone she needs. With a firm grip on Noah's chest, Neri coldly reminds her that her heart is in her hands. A clawed hand grips a beating heart tightly. Neri looks at Noah with a cold, dominant gaze, declaring that whether Noah lives or dies depends entirely on her. Neri calls out to Noah, addressing her as sister. Despite their struggles to hunt, Neri comforts Noah, urging her not to worry as they seek food to bring back. In a moment of vulnerability and affection, Noah wraps her wings around Neri in a tight embrace, promising to do everything in her power. Neri looks on with a solemn expression, recalling the burden they carried in place of their big brother. In the wild, Noah takes to the skies, diving with precision to snatch a horned animal from its herd, proving her capability as a hunter. With a swift motion, Noah swoops down upon the horned animal. After a brief confrontation, she strikes with precision, clamping her talons onto the creature's head as it lets out a final desperate cry. Noah stands over the fallen Ellen-2, panting heavily from the exertion of the hunt. Neri watches her with a satisfied smile, remarking that Noah is capable of doing it after all. The companions are bewildered, questioning who managed to catch the prey. Upon realizing it was Misumi, Neri calmly accepts the situation. As the scene shifts to a shot of the full moon, it is determined that Kokoran will have to remain without blood. Noe confronts Neri, her expression filled with pain and confusion. She demands to know why Neri lied, questioning if she really thought the deception would go unnoticed. With a heavy heart, Noe admits that she was the one who deserved the punishment. Neri gives a cold, confident smile, agreeing to Noah's request. She leans in close, telling a distressed Noah that she will see just how much she can endure for the sake of their brother. The aftermath shows Noah sitting alone against a tree, completely drained and miserable. Noah is completely overwhelmed, her body trembling as she gasps for air in agony. Despite her desire to be punished, the physical and emotional toll becomes too much to bear. She eventually breaks down, sobbing and pleading for it to stop, while Neri looks on silently, witnessing Noah's limit. Noah lies broken on the ground, letting out a heavy sigh of total exhaustion. Neri looks down at her with a detached expression, reminding her that if she wants mercy next time, she will have to beg for it properly. With a final cold acknowledgement, Neri brings the punishment to an end. Neri leans in and bites into Noah's neck, drinking her blood to bring the punishment to a close. With a final gulp, Neri pulls away, leaving a defeated Noah lying motionless and exhausted on the forest floor. Noah lies flat on her back, her chest heaving as she struggles to catch her breath. Completely drained and defeated, she stares blankly into the distance, whispering a heartfelt apology to her sister. In a series of memories, Noah admits she was too scared to speak and accepts her punishment, promising not to repeat her mistakes. Meanwhile, Neri is haunted by the memory of the sensation when Noah's blood filled her body. A feeling she cannot forget in the present, Noah looks toward Neri and softly calls her sis. The focus shifts to the sharp gaze of a predator and a massive, lethal claw. Misumi has successfully brought down a prey animal, leaving its body lifeless on the ground. Noah and Neri stand together in the desolate landscape, looking upon the kill as it is mentioned that Misumi was the one who caught it. Neri's voice booms as she demands to know who has been catching the prey every time. Noah tries to explain that it was Misumi, but Neri shuts her down with a cold, piercing gaze, warning her never to interfere. Noah sinks to her knees, calling out to her sister in disbelief and fear. Overwhelmed by Neri's intensity, Noah drops to her knees, looking up at her with a gaze of submission. She softly declares that she will accept her punishment, fully yielding to Neris' authority. That was what happened. The flashback ends, returning to the present moment, where Neri and Noah stand side by side in the barren wasteland, surrounded by scattered feathers. Ciel is approached by Neri, but he immediately asks about Misumi's location. Without hesitation, Neri coldly reveals the truth. She has eaten him. A lingering question remains about the future relationship between the dragons and the eagle. In a modern setting, the tiger asks Ciel if the spiky-haired person is the one he lives with, to which Ciel simply agrees, adding that the tiger doesn't do those things with him. The tiger's mother then asks if they eat and sleep together, wondering if the tiger's preference is because she has a small chest. This prompts the tiger to shout in frustration that the reason is simply because she is her mother. Young Ciel celebrates his success on the gym bars, encouraged by an older boy. Deeply impressed by the older boy's capabilities, C's asks him to teach him how to count, admitting that it is difficult. The scene shifts to a classroom where the older boy tutors Ciel, suggesting they begin their lesson with multiplication. The modern awe fades, returning to the wild mountains. The tiger lets out a thunderous roar, the sound echoing across the vast landscape. As the echoes die down, the tiger suddenly hears a rustle in the nearby foliage apples. Alert curiosity. The tiger looks toward the sound and calls out, "Hekido!" With a sudden, powerful leap, the tiger lunges forward, attacking the other tiger with fierce intensity. The tiger is slammed into the earth, pinned down by the overwhelming weight of the rival tiger. As she stares up, a somber thought echoes in her mind. This kindness isn't something worth seeking. The tension erupts into a brutal fight as the tiger and the rival tiger clash violently. They roar in fury, their claws swishing through the air and leaving deep gashes as they struggle for dominance. The rival tiger lets out a fierce roar, declaring the land as its own territory. The two powerful beasts continue their brutal struggle, lunging at each other with raw aggression. The battle intensifies as the rival tiger leaps with overwhelming force. Despite her struggle, the tiger is eventually overpowered and pinned to the rocky ground. Looking up at her opponent, she tells the rival tiger that she isn't challenging him for his territory. Kneeling on the ground, the tiger softly explains that she was merely looking for someone. The rival tiger looks on, realizing the mistake, and admits that he had thought she was threatening him and had lost her self-control. Realizing he had overreacted, the rival tiger bows his head and offers a sincere apology to the tiger. The two stand in a quiet moment, facing one another as the tension between them finally fades. The tigers decide to tend to their wounds before they become infected. As night falls over the rocky landscape, Ciel finds a quiet pool of water to wash his face, appearing lost in deep thought. The tiger approaches Ciel in the pool and asks if he is all right, to which he simply confirms that he is. Noticing her staring upward, Ciel asks what she sees in the sky. The tiger softly admits that she is searching for something, leaving Ciel to watch her in thoughtful silence. Under the starry night sky, the tiger reveals that the thing she has been searching for is a dragon. Ciel, who has only ever heard stories about such creatures, asks what she intends to do once she finds one. After a brief, joking mention of eating it, the tiger explains her true motive. She has been traveling in search of a way to live a long life together with a dragon. Ciel is left stunned. Reflecting on her words, Ciel questions the tiger's wish to extend her lifespan, calling the idea impossible. He tells her that someone as beautiful and strong as she is should focus on preserving her bloodline instead of chasing immortality. Overcome with emotion and holding her hand, Ciel suddenly suggests that she stay and raise children with him, though he immediately seems to retract the bold proposal in embarrassment. Ciel speaks with sudden intensity, asserting that even if it were for the sake of the clan, he doesn't need her to be just a tigress anymore. The tiger gazes at him, her expression shifting as she is deeply moved by his confession. The tiger gently releases Ciel's hand, her expression resolute. She tells him that there is still much she has yet to accomplish, and that family and clan are not her primary concerns. Surprised by her firm stance, Ciel looks at her and asks what her true goal in life is. With a look of fierce determination, the tiger finally reveals her goal. She wants to sink her fangs into a dragon. Ciel is caught completely off guard, his expression shifting to one of pure shock as he questions why such a thing is so important to her. The tiger looks on with a troubled expression, stating that Ciel's words don't sit right with her. She wonders if he brought her all this way just to tell her that she is no longer needed. As she walks away, Ciel watches her, processing her reaction. Suddenly, a look of clarity hits him, and he exclaims that he finally understands how things are. Ciel smiles warmly as he suggests they meet again someday, if she is willing. As the tiger walks, Ciel watches her, thinking to himself that she is completely insane. However, as he looks at her one last time under the night sky, he admits that she is unbelievably beautiful. The tiger curiously taps a small object and discovers a ball of yarn on the ground, sniffing the area with interest. After her brief exploration, she lets out a long, relaxed stretch across the rocks. Nearby, Ciel sits quietly on a ledge, observing her as the chapter ends. Noah notices feathers scattered on the ground and asks where Misumi has gone. The tiger calmly reveals that she ate him. Overcome with shock and anger, Noah shouts at the tiger, questioning what Misumi could have possibly done to deserve such a fate. Noah confronts the group, demanding to know why Misumi had to die. Kokoran tries to defend the boy, insisting that Misumi was obedient and would never cause harm. However, the tiger dismisses the tragedy, simply stating that he was hungry. Shocked by this cold response, Noah asks if they are truly okay with it, while the tiger merely complains about the effort she spent bringing back prey. Noah is horrified, shouting in disbelief at the tiger's cruelty. The tiger, wearing a mocking smile, bluntly tells Noah that they are nothing more than food to her and Kokoran. As Noah expresses their belief that the tiger respected their brother's words, the tiger coldly reminds them that her offer to help never included a promise of protection. Noah flinches in shock and sadness, deeply wounded by the tiger's harsh revelation. Kokoran attempts to soothe Noah, gently telling them not to worry too much about the situation. With a heavy heart, Noah apologizes and walks away into the forest. Standing alone on a cliff overlooking the water, Noah reflects on the tragedy, realizing that Misumi was the tiger's brother and concluding that she might need some time alone. As the tension settles, the scene shifts to Neri in her massive dragon form, resting calmly in the water. Later, Neri returns to her human form and leans comfortably against Ciel, letting out a contented sigh. Neri looks at Ciel with a playful smile, asking if He's feeling better and ready for what comes next. Ciel, however, stays quiet, staring off into the distance with a neutral expression. Ciel finally breaks his silence and gives a short answer, agreeing to move forward. Neri is surprised by his response, but Ciel's expression remains cold. As he delivers a harsh ultimatum, he demands that once this is all over, Neri must stay out of his life and stop her attempts to kill the tigress. Despite the tension, Neri remains playful, dismissing Ciel's suspicions with a smile. As they focus on the egg, Neri admits that the outcome of the baby is uncertain, noting that they don't know the gender or if it will even survive to adulthood. She then suggests with a smirk that if it fails, they will just need to have another, leaving Ciel looking visibly annoyed. Ciel asks Neri why she is so intent on increasing the number of dragons. Neri explains that she wants to prevent their kind from eating each other and facing extinction, asking if that goal is really so strange. Ciel reflects on the grim rumors he has heard of, dragons being hunted by beasts and driven to the edge of cannibalism, wondering if their extinction was simply natural. However, Neri leans in close to him, gently reminding him not to believe every rumor, insisting that dragons are not as stupid or weak as the stories suggest. Ciel wonders why the dragons disappeared despite there once being so many of them. Neri shrugs it off, claiming she was even attacked by one, though Ciel admits he cannot trust her stories. Neri then clings to Ciel from behind, teasingly asking if he will still go through with mating with her. Neri leans in and gives Ciel a kiss on the cheek, her hand resting on him as their dragon tails intertwine. Despite her playful affection, Ciel remains cold and indifferent, thinking to himself that he doesn't care what happens to the clan, whether they grow or die out. Neri leans in close to Ciel, teasingly asking if he still wants to meet that tiger. Ciel remains silent, his expression distant. The scene then shifts, showing a close-up of a dragon's eye before revealing Neri soaring through the sky in her massive dragon form. Ciel tries to push Neri away, telling her to just stop, but she only becomes more persistent. She leans in close, teasingly warning him that if she doesn't get pregnant, she'll never stop chasing him. As Neri shifts back into her massive dragon form, she declares that their mating process should continue for 3 nights. Neri takes charge, pinning Ciel down as they begin the 3-night process she previously mentioned. After the encounter, Ciel is seen standing alone with a solemn expression. Neri, however, looks on with a satisfied and confident smile, gently touching her stomach as she anticipates the result of their union. Ciel sits on the ground, looking drained and distant. Neri stands before him, telling him to listen and suggesting that maybe it's enough. As Ciel stares back with slitted eyes, Neri's massive dragon form curves around him, casting a piercing glare. Ciel lets out a fierce shout, commanding Neri to never come near him again, and takes to the skies, flying away over the rugged mountains. Neri simply responds with a casual okay, watching his retreating figure with a smirk, and thinking to herself that this distance is only for now. Ciel flies alone through the vast, open sky, a single feather drifting slowly behind him. As he puts distance between himself and Neri, his expression turns solemn. A memory surfaces of a warmer time, showing him smiling alongside a winged companion, but the warmth of the past only deepens his current pain. He is left with nothing but sadness and regret. Flying high above the jagged, frozen peaks, Ciel looks out over the vast, empty landscape. Overcome by the weight of his regrets, he silently vows that he cannot bear to lose anything more. The scene shifts to a quiet resting place where Kokoran is lounging in a nest. Anoa descends and announces their returns. Noah calls out Kokoran's name and Kokoran looks up, responding with a gentle smile. Kokoran warmly invites Noah to sleep with him in the nest. Surprised, Noah questions if he is truly sure and Kokoran readily confirms. As Noah remains hesitant and bewildered, Kokoran reaches out his hand, gently coaxing the winged companion to come closer. Kokoran pulls Noah close, softly remarking that it feels a bit lonely now that he is gone. Noah agrees, and the two embrace tightly, filling the empty spaces in each other's hearts as the chapter comes to a close. Standing alone in the pouring rain of a desolate landscape, Ciel throws his head back and releases a heartbreaking roar. Having finally escaped the clutches of his mother, he lets out a cry of pure despair, his voice echoing through the emptiness. Amidst the torrential downpour, the tiger lets out a powerful echoing roar. As the sound fades, the tiger pauses, appearing curious and thoughtful about what it has just sensed. The tiger lets out a series of powerful roars, leaping through the storm with fierce determination. Cell lets out a series of thunderous roars, his body cutting through the torrential rain as he pushes forward, driven by an overwhelming surge of emotion. The tiger surges forward, meeting Ciel in the midst of the storm. Without a word, she catches him, pulling him into a tight, desperate hug as they both succumb to their overwhelming emotions. In the middle of their emotional embrace, the tiger suddenly sinks her teeth into Ciel's shoulder. Startled and in pain, Ciel cries out, "It hurts," and ouch, as the sudden bite breaks the silence of the rain. Following the sudden bite, the tiger confronts Ciel with intensity, recalling how he once called her useless. Ciel is left bewildered, questioning why she is reacting this way. But he soon shouts back with determination, explaining that he only said those things to ensure she wouldn't be killed. The tiger continues her confrontation, sternly reminding Ciel that he has only just recovered from his injuries and lacks the strength to even fly. Questioning how he possibly plans to fight a dragon in such a state, Ciel attempts to argue back, but his voice fails him. He collapses onto the wet ground, head bowed in defeat, and softly admits that he is tired. Seeing his vulnerability, the tiger's expression softens into one of deep sadness. Now sheltered from the storm, Ciel lies exhausted on the ground as the tiger looks over him with a concerned expression. Ciel reveals the true source of his distress, admitting that the dragon's presence terrifies him and makes his skin crawl. He confesses how the creature repeatedly tried to control and threaten him, leaving him with a desperate, overwhelming urge to escape from the place as quickly as possible. Ciel recalls the comfort and safety he felt whenever he was by the tiger's side, believing she would always protect him. However, as the tiger places a hand on his shoulder, he confesses that this very feeling of security is what he hates the most. The tiger firmly declares her intent to protect Ciel. However, Ciel admits that his wish to remain by her side isn't because of her strength, but simply because he wants to be with her. Confused by this admission, the tiger asks him why. Ciel looks at the tiger and asks a blunt question. Why doesn't she just eat him? The tiger is left speechless and confused, admitting that she doesn't understand. Ciel continues to ponder, wondering if it is because he is a male dragon, or if she simply wants to protect him. The atmosphere shifts into a poetic montage, recalling the beauty of their journey, the vast view of the mountains from above, and the shimmering stars in the night sky. The tiger reflects on the glimmer of Ciel's scales in the dappled light, and the warmth of the young dragon sleeping peacefully in her arms. As the memories continue, Ciel thinks of the world the tiger has shown him, admitting that it is beautiful. His gaze is filled with a quiet, heartfelt emotion. The tiger leans over Ciel, her gaze intense and focused on him. In a sudden movement of affection and protection, she pulls him close, embracing him tightly as they share a silent, emotional moment of connection. The tiger holds Ciel close, her expression softening with tenderness. Ciel clings to her tightly, his dragon tail instinctively curling around her, as they share a moment of quiet, mutual comfort and attachment. The tender moment is suddenly broken as the tiger begins to sniff Ciel's neck. Confused and startled, Ciel tries to protest, but the tiger abruptly pulls back, glaring at him with a sharp, intense expression. She tells him that he smells a little different today, shifting the atmosphere from affection to suspicion. Confused by the tiger's sudden intensity, Ciel is caught off guard when she suddenly nips at his shoulder. He cries out, telling her it hurts and begging her to stop, but the tension quickly melts away as the tiger begins to lick his cheek, leaving Ciel with a conflicted yet soft expression. Ciel leans in and warmly hugs the tiger's face, a look of pure happiness and contentment on his face. The tiger remains still and calm, allowing the young dragon to show his affection under the soft light of the mountains. The perspective shifts, showing a pair of massive scaly claws gripping the rocky terrain. In a wide shot, a winged figure in a hooded cloak stands atop a mountain peak, gazing out at the beams of light piercing through the dark clouds as the chapter comes to a close. As chapter 28 opens, the scene shifts to the rugged mountains where a group of scouts is operating. A hooded figure gives a direct order to Misumi, directing them to head in a specific direction to track down the dragon and report back to Shinsui-sama. A great eagle descends, apologizing for startling the group. The hooded scout remarks on how rare it is to see such a bird in these parts. As a cheerful winged woman with a braid introduces herself with a warm greeting, Misumi looks at the great eagle with an earnest, almost distressed expression. He tells the creature that he has a request, pleading with it to pretend that it has eaten him. Misumi reveals the heartbreaking reason behind his strange request, admitting that he wants to escape the dragon but is terrified that his sister will suffer the consequences. Kokoran looks on with confusion, unable to comprehend why Misumi is so afraid or why the dragon would target an innocent sibling. Misumi asks Kokuran if he is running away on his own before opening up about his own desperation. He explains that he tried to convince his sister to find a way to cure the poison and live without the dragon's blood, hoping to break free from the creature's hold. However, despite his repeated attempts, his sister would not agree to the plan, leaving Misumi in a state of anxiety. Misumi continues his explanation, revealing that his sister refuses to leave and actually wants to stay with the dragon. He recalls her sternly telling him not to interfere, a realization that has left him feeling utterly helpless. Looking distressed, Misumi admits to Kokuran that he simply doesn't know what to do anymore. Ciel asks Misumi what he would gain by setting him free. Desperate for liberation, Misumi promises to do anything, despite the cost of giving his blood. Ciel accepts and then directs his attention toward Misumi's leg. Ciel looks at Misumi with a predatory smile and makes a terrifying proposal. He wants to eat one of Misumi's legs. As Misumi stands there in shock and disbelief, Ciel reveals the reason behind his request, stating that Misumi is also a dragon. Ciel looks at Misumi with a mix of curiosity and surprise, questioning if he truly wants his freedom that badly to offer such a shocking sacrifice. Misumi, his expression filled with longing and determination, admits that there is someone he desperately wants to see. Misumi flinches as Ciel begins to analyze him. Ciel observes that if Misumi had truly been eaten, there would be feathers left behind, leading him to question the state of Misumi's wings. Suddenly, Ciel dismisses his previous shocking demand, stating he doesn't need something like that anymore. Confused and bewildered, Misumi asks about his leg and questions if Ciel is truly sure about this decision. Ciel drags Misumi away, finally granting him the freedom he desired. As they part, Ciel makes it clear that he will not be searching for him. Misumi agrees, promising that when the time comes, he will be the one to find Ciel. Walking away, Ciel leaves him with a chilling warning. If Misumi cannot find him, he will die a reality that Ciel has already accepted. Misumi looks back with a pleading expression, whispering a final thank you for his freedom. Ciel tells him to go quickly and stay safe. As Misumi disappears into the distance, Ciel remains alone in the quiet woods, sitting still with his long scaly tail curled around him. The scene shifts to a rugged rocky coastline by the sea. An eagle rests in its nest, calling out Yuro-san before taking flight. It descends toward a woman wearing a poncho, shouting Misumi-san as it reaches her. Misumi's sister is overwhelmed with emotion as she sees him, tearfully exclaiming that he has finally returned. Misumi pulls her into a warm embrace, promising that from now on they can stay together. Misumi gazes at two eggs resting in a nest, questioning their identity. The woman confirms that they are their children. Heartbroken and regretful, Misumi closes his eyes and tearfully apologizes for not being by her side during such an important time. Misumi pulls the woman into a tight, tender embrace. With a soft, tearful smile, she tells him that just being able to see him again like this is enough for her. Overwhelmed by her kindness and his own guilt, Misumi looks at her and admits that her expression only makes him feel more anxious. Misumi clenches his hand, trying to steady himself. His partner gently encourages him to pull himself together, reminding him that he is a father now. She laughs softly, and Misumi lets out a sigh, looking at her with deep affection. An eagle soars through the air, carrying a large fish in its talons. It returns to the nest where Ria awaits, carefully dropping the fresh prey into the nest to feed the family. Misumi and Ria share a tender moment as they witness the hatching of their children. However, the peace is fleeting as the night sky unfolds with a bright moon. Misumi's expression turns somber and contemplative. Misumi and Ria settle into a quiet, hidden spot to avoid drawing attention. When Ria questions the reason for the move, Misumi reveals a grim truth. The poison within him has not vanished. Driven by necessity, he confesses that he must return to the dragon to seek the blood needed for his survival. Misumi tells Ria with a heavy heart that he must leave her and their children behind once more. He tells her that she has every right to be angry with him, but Ria simply responds that it's fine. She asks him why she would even be angry, pulling him into a tender embrace to show her unwavering support. gently reminds Misumi of the time he left, fearing they would never meet again, but highlights the fact that he did come back. Acknowledging the pain he must have endured, she asks him to be kinder to himself and find forgiveness. Overwhelmed by her warmth and understanding, Misumi softly agrees. Misumi tells Ria that it is time for him to leave. Ria gives her consent with a gentle all right. As Misumi flies away on the back of an eagle, Ria watches him disappear into the distance, softly promising that they will be waiting for him. Across a desolate plain, an eagle glides low over the ground. Suddenly, a leopard leaps from the terrain, striking the bird with a powerful pounce. The eagle lets out a sharp cry of pain as it is pinned down by the predator. Misumi praises Muku for the successful ambush and orders the leopard to end the prey's suffering. However, the captured eagle pleads for his life, claiming that his body is filled with poison. Misumi is not convinced, believing it to be a desperate lie to avoid being devoured, while the eagle continues to scream the truth in terror. Ciel suddenly arrives on the scene, startling Misumi. Recognizing Ciel, desperately pleads for rescue and asks us at Hakare's whereabouts. Ciel realizes that if the eagle knows Hakare, the tiger must be close by. Just then, the tiger appears in the distance, shouting for them to stop being so noisy. The tiger woman asks the man if he is stupid enough to follow her all the way to such a desolate place. The man confidently replies that he is there to meet Hakare. Ciel immediately cuts in, bluntly stating that Hakare wants nothing to do with him. As the man tries to react, Ciel looks on with a smug expression, leading the man to shout that Ciel is simply speaking for himself. Kokoran notices a small creature and asks about it, and Ciel introduces her as Muku. Kokoran is captivated by her, noting that she is pure white and beautiful unlike Auga. Ciel can only respond with an awkward sigh. Suddenly, the captured creature interrupts their conversation with a chilling request for blood. Misumi is visibly shaken, wondering if the fear he feels is the result of eating a dragon. After Ciel warns him against being arrested and provides the requested blood from the captured creature, Misumi gratefully addresses him as Master Hekidu. However, Ciel is irritated by the title, firmly telling him to stop calling him that and insisting he is nothing like the tiger. Feeling hungry, the tiger asks if she can eat Misumi, but Ciel quickly tells her it is none of her business. Kokoran is puzzled by Ciel's protectiveness and asks why he is helping the man. Ciel then reveals the truth. Misumi had actually saved his life before. Kokoran ponders this revelation while Misumi looks on with a calm expression. The tiger looks at Ciel, teasingly noting that he is simply repaying a favor. Ciel dismisses the situation, stating that their business there is done and begins to walk away. However, Kokoran shouts for them to wait, reminding Ciel that the bet they made earlier is not yet over and questioning if he is planning to run away again. Kokoran shouts for Ciel to fight him fair and square, boasting that he chased him regardless of his attempts to flee. The tiger adds to the provocation, asking if Ciel is running because he fears losing. With a mischievous smirk, she concludes by teasing that male dragons are weak after all, leaving Ciel looking visibly annoyed. Ciel finally gives in and accepts the challenge, declaring that he will take Kokoran on. Kokoran smirks, pleased that Ciel is finally fired up. As the tiger watches and calls out to him, Ciel sharply tells her to stay out of it. The tension reaches a breaking point as Ciel and the tiger square off in their primal forms, their aggressive growls and hisses echoing across the wasteland. From the sidelines, Kokoran shouts words of encouragement, while the tiger's human form looks on, anticipating the impending battle. The confrontation erupts into a violent clash as the tiger lunges forward with a roar. Ciel fights back, whipping his tail to strike the tiger with a loud thwop, but the predator quickly retaliates, sinking its teeth deep into the seal's tail. The battle intensifies as Ciel and the tiger exchange a series of violent blows, from swift swipes to heavy stomps. As they lock together in a fierce struggle, the tiger's human form looks on with a grin, impressed by the intensity of the fight, remarking that it's a good match. The battle takes a sudden turn as the tiger makes an agile leap, landing squarely on Ciel's back. Caught by surprise, Ciel can only utter a confused what, before the tiger slams down with a powerful strike, delivering a heavy blow to the seal's head. Ciel screams for the birds to stop as they swarm around him, disrupting the battle. The tiger, now in human form, looks on in confusion, wondering what the birds are doing. Kokoran shouts in frustration, insisting that he is the one who should be fighting Ciel. But their attention is quickly shifted as a colossal foot crashes down upon the land, signaling the arrival of something far larger. A sudden powerful blow strikes Ciel, sending the Ciel reeling back with a loud whack. As Ciel struggles to recover, the tiger in human form shouts out Hikadu, while the tiger in animal form leaps forward to maintain the attack. The tiger lets out a thunderous roar, asserting its dominance. However, the moment is cut short as the massive manned creature lunges forward, launching a powerful attack directly at the tiger. The unknown creature slams the tiger into the dirt, pinning it down with overwhelming strength. Despite the tiger's fierce snarls, The beast continues its savage assault. Nearby, Muku watches the fight unfold, letting out a low, cautious growl. CL stands in the wasteland, his expression tense as someone calls out to him. Mr. Hikado? The air is suddenly filled with the screeching of Noah circling above. Without warning, one of the massive birds dives sharply, a piercing cry, as it swoops down directly toward him. The tiger looks up in shock, wondering who the hell this intruder is. Meanwhile, the unknown creature lets out a thunderous roar, demanding to know who they are. The tiger swiftly leaps toward the elephant, who is standing close to CL. With a fierce roar, the tiger demands to know what the massive creature plans to do with the CL. The massive Rin-2 towers over the tiger, its expression cold as it delivers a menacing answer, "We're going to kill it." 2 coldly finishes its sentence, stating its intent to kill the dragon. Enraged and determined, the tiger glares back, declaring that she will not allow such a thing to happen. Above them, the Noah birds circle the scene, adding to the heavy atmosphere. The Noah dive and circle the scene with intensity. The hooded figure watches with a grim expression, warning the tiger that if she insists upon shielding the dragon, there will be a price to pay. The Noah warriors shout their resolve, declaring that they will show no mercy to those who shield the dragon. Below them, the tiger stands her ground as Muku lets out a fierce roar and leaps forward to attack the towering foot of Rin-2. The unknown creature lets out a fierce snarl, commanding them to move as they are merely in the way. Following the beast's lead, a Kokoran shouts a cold ultimatum, threatening to kill them if they do not comply. Kokoran shouts back at the Noah group, calling them big fuzzballs and claiming they are the ones blocking the way. Amidst the tension, the tiger asks what they are actually hoping to achieve. When Kokoran insists that they are only fighting back because they were attacked first, Rin-2 simply responds with a chilling and indifferent nothing. Standing atop the massive head of Neri-2, a woman in ornate robes looks down with a serene smile, questioning why they are all so determined to protect the dragon. The tiger fiercely claims that the dragon belongs to her, while Kokoran insists that their match is far from over, and CL admits that he would perish without the dragon. Kokoran then turns the question back on Ilia, demanding to know her group's story. However, Ilia only laughs, mocking them for their lack of a unified cause and calling them an odd group. Ilia calmly states their purpose. They hunt dragons. When questioned if they would be fine with dragons living elsewhere, she gives a cryptic response. Another companion firmly declares that dragons have no place there, and the tension peaks as a warrior screams their bloodthirsty intent to kill dragons. A man from Ilia's group shouts with conviction, declaring that he will kill the dragon right now. Ilia calmly intervenes, telling him there is no need to rush. She finds the fact that different species have banded together to protect the dragon intriguing, and expresses her desire to speak with them. The man, however, gives a blunt and immediate refusal. Ilia tells her companion to hold back, promising he can kill the dragon later. She apologizes to the tiger's group, explaining that the man's aggression is due to a traumatic past experience with a dragon. As the conversation continues, Noah asks if someone's leg was also taken by a dragon, receiving a grim confirmation. The companion describes the horror of his past, recalling how dragons ate his leg and chased him until he was exhausted, claiming it was merely hunting practice. Another member shares a similar tragedy, revealing that their husband's eye was gouged out. As Noah listens in shock, Ilia adds that even a lion's pride fell victim to such attacks, painting a grim picture of the dragon's brutality. Elia continues her grim tale, showing the scars of those who lost friends, homes, and family to the dragon's whims as the tiger looks on with pity, calling the tragedies awful. Elia's expression remains calm. She turns the conversation back on the tiger, coldly asking what the difference is between the dragon's slaughter and the way predators hunt their own prey. Ilia apologizes for her previous intensity and explains that she bears no ill will toward meat eaters. CL is confused, questioning how she can feel that way when predators hunt others. Ilia then points to the surrounding greenery, revealing that she consumes vast amounts of nature in just a few days, prompting Kokoran to remark that her appetite is a bit much. Ilia muses on the cycle of life, explaining that if herbivores were to overpopulate, they would strip the land bare, leading to universal extinction. She asserts that carnivores are essential to keep the world in balance. But her tone shifts as she reflects on the past, noting that this balance only existed until the dragons multiplied and disrupted the natural order. Stunned by Ilia's words, CL asks if there are truly other dragons out there. While the tiger checks on him, CL admits he is in pain. Ilia looks at him with interest, revealing that he is a male Dragana rarity, as males seldom leave their nests. Ilia curiously asks CL where he comes from, to which he simply replies, "Far East." Despite the lingering tension and the trauma of the past, the lion-like companion decides that the dragon can live for the time being. When the companion questions the reason, Ilia explains that they are going to take CL to meet the elder. Elia calmly asserts that no species should be entirely wiped out. However, a lion-like creature roars in disagreement, declaring that every single dragon must be eradicated. Mocking her noble sentiment, the creature lunges forward in a ferocious attack. The lion-like creature lunges forward, its jaws snapping, but Elia manages to block the strike. However, the sheer power of the beast is overwhelming, and he flings her across the wasteland. Nearby, the colossal form of Rintu, the Rintu, lies motionless on the earth, a silent witness to the chaos. The violence ends as quickly as it began, leaving the lion-like companion defeated and motionless on the wasteland floor. Elia, completely unfazed, looks back at the group with a serene smile and asks if they should get going. The tiger holds Ciel protectively in her arms, while Kokoran and Misumi stand by, ready to follow as they leave the scene behind. Leaving the conflict behind, the group begins their journey across the wide, barren plains, heading toward the towering cliffs that loom in the distance. As they trek across the desolate plains, the tiger carries Ciel, her mind set on finding someone with ancient knowledge. Ciel remains unfazed by the revelation of other dragons, dismissing it as irrelevant, however. As he questions whether they should continue following Elia's group, the tiger's expression turns grim, sternly reminding him that those people are predators who seek his death. Ciel clings tightly to the tiger, asking if she will protect him. The tiger tries to convince him to walk on his own, but Ciel insists that he is still in pain. Kokoran looks on, questioning how long Ciel intends to be carried around. Eventually, the tiger lets out a sigh, complaining that her own feet are starting to ache, which earns a skeptical remark from Rin-2. Noah tells Ciel that whether a dragon comes from the east or the west, it remains a dragon. When Ciel tells her to stop talking in circles and get to the point, Noah is surprised by his sudden outspokenness. To illustrate her point, she uses an analogy explaining that just as all birds including an eagle are fundamentally birds, the same absolute truth applies to dragons. Noah continues her lecture, explaining that while birds are all birds, an eagle is a different kind of bird. She asks Ciel if he would kill all birds just because he hated one, suggesting the same logic applies to dragons. Ciel finds the discussion a pain, but Noah notes that there is still much unknown about dragons, and therefore the elder will make the final decision. Birds soar through the sky as the group makes their final trek across the desolate plains. The tiger continues to carry Ciel, walking beside the massive Rin-2. As they come to a halt, a voice declares that they have finally arrived, and the elder, Adin, greets them with a weary sigh. As they reach the entrance of the forest where the elder lives, Elia steps forward. With a cold and commanding tone, she reaches out her hand and demands that the tiger hand over the dragon immediately. Elia informs the group that those who eat meat are strictly forbidden from entering the forest. Ciel is outraged, demanding to know what this means. While Elia firmly states that the tiger cannot come along, refusing to be separated, Ciel declares that he won't go anywhere without the tigress. Despite his protest, Elia decides she must escort the dragon to the elder, explaining that only those who do not eat meat dwell within the sacred grounds. Elia laughs, mocking Ciel's assumption that the forest is merely filled with harmless creatures like rabbits and fawns. Ciel counters, questioning what the problem is as long as they don't attack anyone inside. Her expression turns sharp and serious as she reveals the truth. She is one of the protectors of this place. Elia's voice turns cold as she delivers a chilling warning. Any meat-eater who dares to enter the forest will never leave alive. As she speaks, images of monstrous predatory beasts appear, showcasing the lethal inhabitants of the area. Ciel and the tiger look on with serious, intimidated expressions, finally realizing the true danger of the place. Elia explains that while meat-eaters are strong hunters, the herbivores of the forest have mastered the art of survival. She claims to be acting for their safety, warning that others inside lack her sympathy for carnivores. However, a glimpse of her true, aggressive intent surfaces as she considers forcing Ciel into the forest by violence. Sensing the danger, looks at her with cold eyes and bluntly states that he cannot trust her. Elia calmly signals her lion companion to stand down, noting that the beast's role is merely to speak. Turning her gaze toward the tiger who is holding call, Elia asks a probing question. Is he your mate? She presses further, recalling that the tiger claimed the dragon as hers, and asks if that means Ciel is merely her prey, or something more. Elia admits that she had been waiting for a chance to seize Ciel, but was surprised by how the tiger and the young dragon refused to leave each other's side. Ciel questions her assumption, explaining that they protect one another simply to stay alive, while the companions argue that a tiger and a dragon could never be mates. The tiger holds Ciel close, stating simply that she does not want anyone to take him away from her. Elia looks on as the tiger holds Ciel close. After a moment of reflection, she agrees to let the tiger accompany them into the forest. But as she speaks, a mysterious and menacing smile crosses her face, and she warns the tiger that her safety is far from guaranteed. The tiger carries Ciel in her arms, asking if the arrangement sounds good. As they begin their journey, Ciel addresses Elia as Hekadusen. Elia expresses her gratitude for a favor, and Ciel tells her he will see what he can do. With a final take care, Elia and her companions watch as Ciel and the tiger venture forward into the wild. As they travel through the rugged landscape, Ciel asks Rintu why the tiger was allowed to come along. Rintu responds with a heavy heart, explaining that they understand the deep pain of losing someone important, suggesting a hidden sorrow of their own. The group discusses the difficulty of reaching the elder, noting that they must wait until the sun goes down, and the creatures of the forest fall asleep to avoid being spotted. As they move forward, they are met by a cheerful woman in a patterned dress, who beams with joy, warmly welcoming Pearl back, and expressing her eagerness to reunite her with everyone. Minerva listens as Lena explains that she has lost her way while searching for her missing child. Acknowledging that the forest is a maze, Minerva warns her that she must find the child before sundown. Hidden behind a large tree, Ciel and the tiger quietly observe the exchange, and Ciel thinks to himself that he might ask the birds for help. Ciel sighs, noting that they have no choice but to wait until sundown. The tiger looks at him with concern and asks about his wound. Ciel initially brushes it off as being fine, but then admits that it still hurts a little. The tiger gently pulls Ciel close, holding him in a warm embrace to soothe his pain. As Ciel looks on, Alina's daughter suddenly appears before them, looking up with a bright, innocent smile. The tiger looks at the young girl with concern, worrying that if she tells her group about them, they will be in trouble. She briefly asks Ciel if they should just eat her, but quickly dismisses the idea, noting that the commotion would only draw more people to their location. The little girl beams with a smile and introduces herself, claiming that Panapo is a hippo. Ciel stares at her in utter confusion, wondering what on earth she is. Panipo observes the pair, identifying them as a tiger and a dragon. While the tiger and Ciel are puzzled by the strange girl, she asks if they eat meat. Upon the tiger's confirmation, Panipo's eyes light up as she reaches a sudden, startling conclusion. The tiger and Ciel try to put Panapo at ease, promising that they won't eat her. Despite the reassurance, Panapo is startled by the tiger's size and Ciel's open jaws, but she eventually agrees to be good for them. The scene shifts to the wide-open savanna, where giraffes, rhinoceroses, and elephants roam freely. Minerva and Lena walk back together through the landscape, and Lena joyfully calls out to everyone, announcing that Minerva has finally returned. As Minerva and Lena arrive at the vast plains, they are surrounded by various wild animals. They are met by Not, a fellow protector, who greets Minerva after a long absence. While Lena finds Not's greeting lacking, Minerva remains calm and acknowledges him. Not then curiously asks Minerva why she has decided to return. Not's tone turns harsh as he declares Minerva an outsider, questioning if she truly expected a warm welcome upon her return. He sternly orders her to leave before she causes any problems for the community. Minerva remains unfazed, calmly asking if she scares him as much as a stranger would. Not dismisses her with a grim warning, stating that her reckless curiosity only invites death. The community's philosophy is absolute. They are born and die in their land, and that is their way of life. Amidst the cold reception, Minerva clarifies her intentions, stating that she will leave as soon as she has spoken with the elder. Lena admits that she doesn't understand Minerva's choice, questioning why she would want to leave a place where she could live her life uninhibited and free. Minerva looks on with a serene smile, explaining that there are still things she must accomplish in the outside world. With a lingering gaze at the landscape, she adds a sobering truth. Even this place won't last forever. Ciel and the tiger share stories of the world beyond the sanctuary with Lena's daughter, describing the vast sea and the beauty of waterfalls and lakes. The young girl is wide-eyed with wonder, amazed by the very concept of running water. However, despite her curiosity, she firmly decides that she will stay in her home even after she grows up, having never stepped foot outside. The tiger looks on, reflecting that she is still just a child. Lena's daughter argues that there is no need to leave her home since it is safe from bad guys and filled with food that regrows instantly. However, Ciel points out the potential for food shortages in a community of only plant-eaters, leaving the girl conflicted about her decision to stay. Looking at the surrounding landscape, Ciel realizes how strange it is to find a lush forest in the heart of a desert, confirming his suspicions about the area's oddity. Ciel asks the young girl what would happen if she actually decided to leave. Inspired, the girl calling herself Panapop admits that she wants to see the outside world too, though she immediately worries if she would survive. Ciel reassures her that there are plenty of animals like her out there, but he bluntly tells her that it won't do. When Panapo asks why, the tiger looks on and simply remarks that wasn't me. Anoa suddenly speaks, warning Ciel, the tiger, and Panapo that there are meat-eaters nearby and that leaving is not an option. The tiger, confused, clarifies that she wasn't the one who spoke. The birds then take flight, screaming warnings to the rest of the community. Not hears the commotion and realizes that predators have entered their territory. Noting that the inhabitants must be made aware of the danger, Minerva's expression turns cold as she questions Not, wondering if he was the one who allowed the predators into their sanctuary. If not, she gives a stern command to find and kill the intruders. As the alarm spreads, Zane, Lena, and the tiger look on with concern, while a group of Aerie including a rhino, a gorilla, and a hippoloom nearby, ready for conflict. The tiger swiftly captures Ponapo, carrying the small creature in its jaws, while Ciel rides atop its back. As the desperate cries of Ponapo echo through the forest, Ciel looks back with a chilling, determined expression, warning the approaching protectors that if they come any closer, he will kill her. As the protectors close in, one of them cries out, reminding the group that Ponapo is still in the tiger's mouth. However, the others remain cold and resolute, declaring that protecting the forest comes first, and that Ponapo will be remembered for her sacrifice. With grim determination, the massive beasts charge towards Ciel and the tiger. Ciel sighs in disappointment, noting that the village protectors care far less for their own than he had expected. Without further hesitation, leaving Ponapo behind as the danger passes, Lena rushes to the small creature, gently asking if she is hurt, while Ponapo looks on with a relieved smile. Hysel urges the tiger to run through the openings in the roots, hoping they can find a place to hide once the sun goes down. But their escape is interrupted as a massive protector lets out a roar and lunges toward them with menacing force. The protector lunges with immense force, but the tiger reacts instantly, leaping away just in time. With Ciel clinging to its back, the tiger dashes forward, barely escaping the protector's grasp. Ciel looks back, startled by how close they came to being caught. Just as they push forward to escape, a figure emerges from the trees to block their path. Elia stands there with a serene smile, noting that the protectors have finally found them. Ciel and the tiger come to a halt, facing the woman as the chapter ends. A side story unfolds, showing the tiger in her human form facing a screaming baby Ciel. Annoyed by the constant noise, she coldly tells him to hunt his own food if he is hungry. Looking at the small, scrawny dragon, she remarks on his frail appearance and muses that she might just eat him anyway. Young Ciel excitedly spots prey, but a large snake suddenly lunges in and catches the small creatures. First, Ciel watches with anticipation until he finally manages to devour the meal. Seeing this, the tiger lets out an annoyed growl, questioning why he is still eating when she had already provided him with food. The tiger looks on with a sigh, questioning if Ciel is even capable of biting into his food, noting what a chore he is. After a tense encounter where Ciel faces off against Atali, the little dragon's energy completely vanishes. In a surprising display of innocence, Ciel curls up and falls fast asleep right on top of the predator's scaly body. Baby Ciel tries to get himself up, but he is so clumsy that he can barely lift his head off the ground. Watching his pathetic struggle, Tali finds the little dragon completely amusing and lets out a small laugh at his expense. Baby Ciel continues to struggle on the ground, slowly trying to find his balance. With a great effort, he manages to stretch his small body upward and stand. Tali remains close, her keen eye tracking every clumsy movement of the tiny dragon. Baby Ciel stands tall, gazing out across the wide mountainous landscape before him. Tali observes the small creature, her expression softening into a faint, amused smile as she watches his innocent curiosity. Baby Ciel suddenly leaps into the air, flying away toward the rugged peaks. Tali looks up, watching his small form vanish into the horizon, and softly remarks that he got away. A distant cry echoes through the air. Tali reacts to the sound, shifting back into her massive snake form. She rears her head high, her sharp eyes scanning the landscape with renewed intensity. Tali strikes with terrifying speed, her jaws snapping shut in a powerful chomp. In an instant, she wraps her massive coils around the woman in the robe, pinning her down completely. With a final vicious bite to the shoulder, Tali overwhelms her prey, leaving the woman's hand reaching out in a desperate, futile struggle. The Tali doesn't stay trapped for long. With a sudden burst of strength, she grabs the Tali's tail and flings the massive beast away. Tali recovers from the impact, looking unfazed as she lets out a weary sigh. Without hesitation, she shifts back into her massive beast form and lunges forward with a menacing hiss, ready to overwhelm her opponent once more. Tali lets out a loud, mocking laugh as she holds the Hekidu in her arms. She tells the creature that it cannot survive like that. With a sense of ownership, she declares that she shall call the dragon Hekidu from now on. A new side story begins, the tailless tiger dragon extra comic. The scenes shift to a modern world, showing Ciel focused on his studies, the tiger working in a shop and relaxing at a bar, and Tali appearing as a student and lounging leisurely with a drink. In a modern setting, the group looks through a photo album titled The Good Old Days. They come across a picture of Ciel as a toddler. The tiger notes that even back then he was full of himself, while another woman finds him cute. As continue, a photo of a sharp, adult version of Ciel appears. When asked who he is, he simply answers, me. The women are caught off guard, teasing him about the sudden change in his demeanor while admiring how cool he looks. CL nervously approaches the woman, his face flushing as he struggles to explain himself, accidentally suggesting that he might be hitting on her. After a clumsy attempt to clarify that he simply thought she was great, he eventually finds the courage to ask her out. The scene shifts to a tea shop called Ujicha, where the two browse through the selection together as CL shyly asks if they could get tea together. The scene shifts to a casual gathering where the group is playing video games. One of them cheers loudly as the screen flashes game set. Declaring himself the champion, when asked if he is having fun, Misumi huffs and dismisses the game as dumb, leading his friends to tease him for being a sore loser. However, Misumi privately reflects on the impressive programming and the novelty of controlling objects on a screen, admitting he has become a fan. Noticing his interest, Cell offers to lend him a game. CL is completely infatuated, hugging Misumi and handing over a stack of cash. He promises to give him all the money he wants, provided that Misumi takes him out on another date. Meanwhile, a girl weeps in the background, heartbroken as she calls out to him. CL excitedly interrupts Misumi and Mina's study session, holding up a Jenga set and suggesting they play. When Mina mentions she has finals tomorrow, CL playfully asks if he is more important than her exams. Despite her initial hesitation, Mina is completely captivated by him, calling out to him as Shinsuo-sama with a blush, leaving Misumi looking on in confusion. Mina apologizes for calling Misumi over so suddenly, but he kindly reassures her. Their conversation is interrupted by a buzzing insect, leaving Mina frightened and pleading for help. Just as Misumi steps forward, determined to handle the situation, CL suddenly appears and kills the bug in one swift, effortless motion. Mina thanks CL for the rescue, while Misumi looks on, completely overwhelmed by CL's efficiency. In a brief side story titled Summer Coat, CL notices that the tiger has cut her hair short to deal with the heat. When she asks if the new look is odd, CL quickly assures her that it looks great. As they walk side by side, CL seems captivated by her appearance, feeling a bit flustered.